Hi, everybody, and welcome once again to another episode of the United States of a Movie podcast, the podcast that turns Monday into Fun Day. It's a podcast for movie fans by movie fans where we try to answer the unanswerable question by trying to pick one movie to represent each state in these United States. It's not the kind of thing I could do by myself, but I don't have to. I've got two massive, incredible movie fans with me. First of all, Ryan Sandler, welcome back.
Oh, man, it's great to be here. And if you're tuning in for the first time, if you listen, you will come.
And Will Hirsch as well, our resident movie nerd, sitting there in his cave of movies. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me here once again. I am going crazy in my small town where everything is falling apart.
That's definitely a theme this week. Because the state we're trying to take down this week on the United States of Movie podcast is heaven. Oh, sorry, it's not heaven. It's Iowa. Of course, the fact that we've already made two jokes about one of those movies, which has pretty much like defined Iowa since it was made, sort of gives a clue to the movie that I brought to the table was 1989's Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner, Amy Madigan from Streets of Fire.
Yeah.
James L. Jones, Ray Liotta, Timothy Busfield, and Burt Lancaster. I love Burt Lancaster in this movie. It's directed by Phil Alden Robinson. I didn't realize who also directed Sneakers and co-wrote it. Sneakers is one of my favorite movies.
When I looked that up, I was like, that's in the pantheon of dad movies. I absolutely adore Sneakers.
That's great. And this dad saw it in theaters. I've been a dad since I was a teenager. He also did The Sunball Fears, which is honestly actually quite a good movie. Me and Zane really like that one.
That's a Tom Clancy one?
That's Tom Clancy one with Ben Affleck.
That's the Jack Ryan one. Yeah, that's not as bad. Like that gets like crapped on a lot, but people sleep on that.
Is there a submarine in that movie?
There is. There's probably references to a submarine. There's definitely an aircraft carrier that gets attacked by bombers. I know that much.
Mm-hmm. So it's submarine adjacent.
It's a good one. That is a good one.
Yeah.
I will fight on die on that hill. My missus and I both like that one. But there are two other movies I can't wait to get into, especially, I love the hot takes from you guys. You guys have got such great hot takes. And my hot take is I enjoyed these movies. Will, let us know, what's the movie that you brought to the table? I'd never heard of it.
So I was excited originally because I was going to bring Children of the Corn, but this is the danger of this podcast is when you look up on Google, what movies take place in what state? You'll see a movie. This happened to me twice now where I get really excited and then, oh, wait, it doesn't actually take place there. It was filmed there. It doesn't take place there. Has nothing to do with the state. And I was originally going to pick Children of the Corn, but ended up going with The Crazies, which is a remake of a George Romero movie that I've never seen. So I don't know how this compares, but that was the 2010 movie, The Crazies, is what I brought to the table.
It's interesting actually because everyone assumed Children of the Corn was fine, and we go corn, it's definitely going to be fine. But that's actually set in Nebraska, so I guess put a pin in that. We'll return to that. But also because you wanted to go down a slightly spooky road because we are in Spooktober. Okay, we are in the run up to Halloween, so why not? And I honestly don't watch horror movies. I don't really like horror movies. But this movie got me kind of interested because it stars Timothy Olyphant. Who doesn't like Timothy Olyphant?
I love Timothy Olyphant.
Timothy Olyphant. Radha Mitchell, Joe Anderson, and Danielle Panabaker, who I know her from the Flash TV shows. But it's directed by Breck Eisner, who directed one of mine and Mrs.'s biggest guilty pleasure movies.
Friday the 13th.
He directed Sahara, which is the Clive Cussler book that got adapted, Dirk Pitt. We like that movie. No. He also directed a number of episodes of The Expanse while actually producing that, one of the best sci-fi shows out there.
You're a big fan of that show.
That is, I've watched it through twice. That is a freaking great show. He's also the son of Michael Eisner of Disney fame.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
A little Nepo baby?
He's a Nepo baby.
Well, fun fact about him, he was one of the reasons that Disney's theme parks went through like a big change because Michael Eisner would take him around the theme parks and be like, "Are you having fun?" And he would be like, "No, this theme park sucks.
It needs to be crazier."
Yeah, and that's why like all of a sudden they started to make a whole bunch of big changes,
Cool.
like in the '80s, is because of him.
Good,
Nice.
good pull there, Will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Ryan, you brought a movie to the table I've known forever. It's a movie that I remember my mum and dad watching once, and I definitely watched 20 minutes of it when I was about, I don't know, 10. Yeah. Tell us about your movie.
Another pseudo sexual thriller in like the vein of A Basic Instinct, which I think this came out before, like a year before, and it's
91.
and I think this was in that ethos of just like movies that I had seen or I'd like that were in my aura, but I'd only seen parodied. So another Fatal Instinct pull, like, which is basically making like pastiching this movie and Cape Fear and a number of other films. But it's funny in doing the research for Iowa, it's like if LaCroix had an Iowa flavored beverage, that's how Iowa these movies could be considered. So and going back to our when we do, where was Wind River?
Yeah, that was Wyoming.
Yeah, so back for our Wyoming episode, we're like, you know what, this is it. We got to do more inclusive, more diverse movies, and we picked the 3 whitest movies we could possibly think of for this one. So sorry about that.
Yeah, we didn't even tell us the movie. You haven't even said it yet.
Oh yeah, sorry. Shit. Well, the plot of the movie is I picked the sexual thriller with Julia Roberts, Sleeping with the Enemy, a movie I'd always heard of but never seen.
Yeah, Sleeping with the Enemy, 1991, starring Julia Roberts, Patrick Bergin in a completely unblinking performance. In fact, we're going to have to talk about that. Kevin Anderson as well. Directed by Joseph Rubin, who also directed Money Train. So I think we've all seen a movie that I've seen Money Train. And this movie was a gargantuan hit. It made a shit ton of money. But yeah, kind of like you were saying, Ryan, it is kind of, because she moves from like Cape Cod to Iowa is kind of like, you know, and like I get what you said about these movies, but in our defense, Iowa is pretty white. You know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, you know, to go
even the corn is white.
Yeah. But there was a couple of shots in these movies that made me uncomfortable by how many just pink faces there were. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And there's a bit in I love some of these movies we talk about have that really like small town feel, like Grosse Pointe Blank and Doc Hollywood. And this movie has that kind of small town feel too. It almost looks like it's shot in the same small town that Doc Hollywood was. Like all of these kind of look the same.
We've got movies that are shot, one that's entirely shot in Iowa, one that's shot in Georgia, and one that's shot in a number of places. I think North and South Carolina. So funny enough, you said, but the thing is, they do all look the same. They do look like, you know, You'd Live Nowhere. They do sort of pull that off. Granted, I will say that Sleeping with the Enemy is the one that does it the least. You know, you get one shot of the Welcome to Iowa.
That was it.
I guess we're in Iowa, and then you just get a generic.
Welcome to Iowa, USA.
But I would also say, and I'm sure there are Iowans listening to this, they're going, there's more to Iowa than just cornfields. There are towns where people live. So, you know, you can make.
I mean, allegedly, I haven't seen any of these towns myself, so that's all speculation until I see otherwise.
But when it comes to Iowa movies, it's not a huge list of absolute bangers, as we say. So,
it's not massive. No, it's not massive. We're going to have to get creative once we get to later seasons with Iowa, for sure. But the thing is, like, what order did you watch these movies in? Because I watched it fucking backwards. I'll tell you that much, because I started with Field of Dreams, then I went into Sleeping with the Enemy, and I ended with the Crazies, and I'm like, damn it, I wish I'd done that shit the other way.
Nope, that's the correct answer. That's what I did. Yeah.
I almost the same, but I watched the Crazies first and then Sleeping with the Enemy. But I think we all started with Field of Dreams because we were just like, well, let's start with the one we know we're all gonna love.
And only one of these movies ended with me in tears, and it's not what you think.
Well, actually, I wanted to pick up on what Will was saying, because Will and I both know and love Field of Dreams. But as I was watching Field of Dreams, I was also watching it while reading Ryan's live texts of Field of Dreams. And so it forced me to watch Field of Dreams through the fresh eyes of Ryan. And
what is your fucking nightmare? I basically took this thing that you loved and held dear and ruined it.
Well, you introduced it to me in a different way, and I was sitting there going, "Oh, Ryan's gonna have notes."
And my introductions, I'd never seen this movie, and I know it was just it's a huge film, and it's such an important piece. And I for some reason thought it was a much more serious movie. Like, but as I'm watching it, the plot of it is so ridiculously absurd, I couldn't help but poke holes in it.
Yeah.
That was so funny because reading your text, same thing. Like with I think Ollie and I the silliness didn't
Yeah.
has never occurred to me. Like I've seen this movie 2 or 3 times, so I haven't seen it a ton, but
Yeah.
The idea where you're just like this plot is just
It's insane.
cuckoo. I'm just sitting there watching it. I'm like, oh yeah, it is really weird.
Yeah.
I'm still loving it, but
If
I am like, this is nuts.
Well, let's try it. Right. You know what? We're actually going to do it. Let's do it in the direction that we watch them, because I was going to try and save this one to last, but let's go. Because to your point, Will, like if you sit down and actually explain the plot to somebody, they'll just go, "What?"
Yeah.
It's like,
They think you're going insane.
No, Kevin Costner has a farm in Iowa, and in the first 10 minutes, he's hearing voices. His wife is very supportive, so he builds a baseball field so that Shooter Joe Jackson, who's a dead baseball player that got caught up in this controversy, come back, and then he can play baseball. And then while he's there, he's also going to hear another voice that makes him go to another game to help this former writer from the 60s who also has to do it. But there's also this guy who's now a doctor that wanted to play baseball, and there's a time travel element where he comes through from another dimension. And then, you know what? What the fuck is this movie about?
that whole thing made zero sense to me. I don't get it.
By the end of the movie, I realized that my reply to all of your criticism was going to be, yeah, but who cares?
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
That's the movie's entire premise is, who cares? Just go with it. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just go with it.
Yep. And there's a lot of overlap between this and the Crazies, because both of them are surrounded by baseball.
Good for a frickin' point. All right, look, Ryan.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy Field of Dreams?
Oh, of course, absolutely. What if you suspend the belief that the plot is just so insane? It really is a beautiful film about a man trying to reconnect with his dad.
Yeah.
Who may or may not be Ray Liotta. I don't know. That wasn't.
I
love that.
I
love that even in this. That's it. This is what everyone wants. And like you said, you were saying like you're gonna cry at the end of this movie. I'm like, there's gonna be a line at the end of this, and you're gonna cry. I'm like, and as I'm in the throes of how this insane ghost baseball pitch, I'm like, what are you talking about? Next thing I know, I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm calling my dad. I'm apologizing for being a dick my whole life. This movie is a warm therapy blanket.
Yeah.
But it's so insane. It's so fucking insane.
Insane. And the thing is, Will, what is it that Ryan saying all this stuff, and it suddenly like lifts this blinders off us that we're like going, wait a minute, this movie is ridiculous. Have we just been going along for the ride?
I think there was just a time in movies, like in the, this is a movie where this kind of phrase gets thrown around a whole lot, where people say like, you can never make this movie today. And usually that's meant as kind of like a negative, as like oh, this movie's so offensive and all that. Blazing Saddles is kind of like held up. You can't make that today. I disagree. I think that's stupid commentary. But this is one of those movies I really think it'd be really hard to make today, because it's so sincere and it's so non-cynical. Like it is, it is just so like, just go along with this premise, and very sappy, very emotional, that I don't know if audiences today would be as willing to accept a movie like that. There was just something in the ethos at the time, like especially late 80s, early 90s, where you could just straight release this, and it's not a genre movie. Today it would be classified as a genre film, but back then be like, no, this is an adult like drama, or maybe even a family drama, that everyone can go see. And the supernatural elements you just accept it. And I don't think you could do that today.
Well, I have a theory, and it's not about the you can or can't do that today. It's literally you can't do that today because of the timing. This is a 1989 movie set in 1989 using the story point of the 60s.
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of people from the time of free love who used to do a bunch of drugs So come into that. That's why my theory is it's not a Jacob's Ladder situation. My theory is that because Kevin Costner, it's established in the opening credits, like the opening voiceover, that he used to smoke weed and take acid, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is Field of Dreams some sort of return acid trip that Kevin Costner is having while lying just in the middle of his cornfield? He's just there. He's just had a massive. Are we just seeing his drug-addled hallucination of just missing his dad?
It got to a point towards the end of this film where I'm wondering, is Kevin Costner his dad? Like, is he his own father? Like some warped perspective of this movie.
Because James Earl Jones is in a movie and suddenly, I am your father. This is what you're going for, right? You're like, ooh.
I was going to say, is James Earl Jones playing the same character he plays in The Sandlot? But that's a topic for a different episode.
That's a topic for this very episode because
let's get into it. Let's get into
Funny enough, once I was done watching Field of Dreams, because I was still doing my day job, I was like, I'm just going to throw on The Sandlot. So I might be getting the two confused during this podcast. I might be, if you catch me saying how did Squints end up with Wendy Peppercorn? Just call me out on it.
Well, I was going to say, this is definitely one of my top 5 Kevin Costner baseball movies, but it's my number 2
easily
baseball ghost movies next to Angels in the Outfield, which I think does this far better.
Angels in the Outfield, I believe, is the movie debut of my father-in-law. He's in the crowd, I do believe.
Christopher Lloyd?
How did you know? But then also, Field of Dreams, funny enough, was the movie debut of Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
What?
Because they are in the crowd as well. I just saw some variety video on YouTube where they were going through their career or something, and that's when they were like that bit where they're kind of walking up to get the beer and the hot dog, which I think you referenced as that was the most unrealistic part. It cost $5.
It was $7 for 2 beers and 2 hot dogs. Get out of here.
But they, as teenagers, were watching this happening and watching how it was done and watching how it got made, kind of thing. So I found that kind of a cool little tidbit. The other little thing that I found out that is this. Now I say this found out, but it's long been the question of who was the voice, and apparently the author of the book was told that it was Ed Harris.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I'm interested in that one.
You had the perfect voice actor in this movie already.
I was just about to say.
Completely ignored it.
It's a bit too easy of a voice to hear. Now, one thing I did notice is that I kind of texted you guys about this, about Field of Dreams, but it's also true with all of these movies, is that within the first 10 minutes, it set the whole thing up. And these movies do not sit around and wait. I mean, I think we've been, in many ways, spoiled or not spoiled by all of these now 2-hour, 30-minute, 3-hour movies where they're in no rush and they give us all kinds of backstory. Whereas we're 11 minutes in, Kevin Costner, who through a voiceover has established his character, is hearing voices in the corn, and his wife's like, well, let's listen to the voices. I'm like, we're off to the races. Sleeping with the enemy within the first 10 minutes takes us through this whole intro and just gets us to the premise of, oh, this is messed up. And the Crazies does the same thing. We barely finished the credits and some guy with a shotgun is walking onto a baseball field. I'm like, it made me almost miss the quick movie.
Yeah.
I
will say that even at 140 minutes, the Crazies was 20 minutes too long, but we'll get into that. But the pace,
I would argue that the Crazies needed. No, actually, it was Sleeping with the Enemy. I needed 20 minutes extra in Sleeping with the Enemy. I feel
and that movie, that's a very quick, 90 minute kind of thriller. That's a very, very abrupt 3-act film. And by the time it was over, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But Field of Dreams 2, it was paced very well.
Wait, there's a Field of Dreams 2?
Yeah, Field of Dreams 2. Yeah.
Still dreaming.
No, but I had a very different preconceived notion of how this movie would go down. And I thought the whole thing was, he builds that baseball field immediately. In the first act. It's there. And then a season goes by and nothing happens except the drama of them all of our corn. We needed the corn. The corn is my money. It keeps my house hot type of situation. They needed that. And then, but his wife is super chill about it.
Yeah. She's very, again, this is child of the 60s. She's like, yeah, sure. I have voices.
Yeah, she's like the total opposite of the wife from Close Encounters, where like
Yeah.
he was just like, I had this strange experience, and everyone else in the town is like, we had this strange experience, and she's like,
Yeah.
well, okay,
She's-
you need to get over that because I'm not going to get a job. You need to, go back to
Yeah.
work. This wife's total opposite. Oh, you're hearing like weird ghost voices?
Cool. What
Yeah,
are they
let's do what
saying?
say.
Yeah.
Totally normal.
Like-
totally normal.
It's funny you should bring that up because it's almost something I forgot is that because he builds the baseball field like you said, and then it goes forward a year because nothing happens. It's you see it. It's Christmas. It's winter. It's even what I don't even say 45 seconds of the movie. It's just him in a Christmas sweater looking out a window, and then we cut to it's sunny again, and there's a bunch of corn. And I'm like, wow, wait a minute, did we just do a 1 year time jump? We just did a 1 year time jump. Holy shit!
He would have gone fucking insane. Much like Close Encounters, he would have lost his goddamn mind. And even towards the end, he kind of does, and he's like, "But I want to go into the corn." And Ray Liotta plays just, I mean, basically playing himself, just an absolute dick. Like he's almost, it's almost like he's miserable. The fact that he's able to play this thing that he loves, and he's just,
I like the bit where he does the Ray Liotta laugh. You know what I mean? It's like this other guy wanted to come, but we told him to stick it. You know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
You gotta get that.
That was a great dig at Ty Cobb right there.
Yeah.
He was massive racist. Like, yeah, we didn't like that guy when he was alive. That was hilarious.
But like,
I don't understand their motives. The ghosts. It's I don't get it.
Well, it's like, you know, so yeah, like let's continue down the path of this movie plot, which is bonkers. The more I talk about, like there was a bit I was texting Carrie Byron during the movie as well when I was just talking about how it was the scene at the school meeting, the school board meeting, talking about how this book is pornography, and I was saying, oh my God, this is terrifying. This is literally exactly what's happening right now in schools across America. 50 years later, the same bullshit, the same thing. We've got to burn these books. We've got to ban these books. These books are pornography. Yeah. And then I said, and then the scene plays out, and the wife gets up and goes, "Who's for, like, you know, freedom of speech and the Constitution?" Which is the exact bullshit argument that that they're using to ban books now. But everyone puts their hands up, and I said that's the only part that's unrealistic about today.
Yeah.
Because all those people would have voted to burn books.
It's two movies on this list that weirdly predicted the future, and the other one is The Crazies.
Yes. The line of, "Whoa, what do you want? A global pandemic?" I'm like, oh shit.
Could you imagine?
Polluted drinking water. Where could that happen?
Oh my God. You are so bang on, man. That is crazy. So
you want Swamp Things? Because that's how you get Swamp Things.
Oh, shit.
That's what the Crazies was missing.
You're
Was
killing
one
me.
thing.
Oh, man.
Oh my God. All of these parallels. I love this. I absolutely love it. And we've got Amy Madigan from Streets of Fire. So this is technically a sequel to Streets of Fire.
That blew my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I was like, her voice sounds so familiar, but I can't place her face. And I went on IMDb. I'm like, get out of here.
See, for me, I remember saying when we did our Chicago episode, the Streets of Fire, how it happened in the opposite way for me, that I go, I know that voice. I know that face. And it's, you know, it's because that bit in the school meeting where she goes, Constitution. She's got such a weird way of speaking. I go, oh, it's the chick from Field of Dreams. It's like, but like, so once he's done that, Shoeless Joe Jackson does turn up. It's not Heaven, it's Iowa. He hits a few balls. His wife and his daughter can sort of see as well. So then sort of more guys come out and they have a bit of a scrimmage, and they are the White Sox, right? Yeah, it's a bunch of guys who essentially back in the day took money from organized crime to fix games, and then were banned from forever from ever playing again. And he feels like the voice is telling him to right this wrong because they could never prove that Shoeless Joe Jackson, even though he took the money, ever did anything to throw a game, right? So he's throwing out all these baseball facts while he's getting stuff to build his baseball field. But then he gets the other voice, which tells him to ease his pain. Is it ease his pain?
Yeah, ease his pain. Yeah.
And he has to go and find James L. Jones, who's playing like this Terrence Mann, who sounds like a real guy. You know what I mean? It's like it's like he's this 60s sort of like guy. And then I'm watching the movie again, and it's the Kevin Costner turns up, says this crazy thing, then tries to kidnap him with a fake gun. And then goes. It's
maybe the best scene in the movie.
Yeah. That's what I mean. The thing is, it's great. As soon as James L. Jones turns up, just takes the movie to 11 for me. I'm just like, James Earl Jones is on fire in this movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes he does the crazy eyes. Sometimes he's, when James Earl Jones is saying something sincere, yeah. But then if James Earl Jones is saying something angry in the bit where he grabs the baseball bat and he goes wide-eyed, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
He's terrifying.
He's got range, man.
Yeah, he's awesome in this movie. This might be, other than his role in Hunt for Red October, this might be my favorite performance of his.
Oh, Coming to America. You are not a king.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, yes.
Daffy Dropper from,
the Lion King. Hello, this is CNN. Anyone?
See, Will was just going
I've only
for
seen
me
the new
because-
Lion King.
Because he
the
knows
good
that
one.
Hunt for Red October is my favorite movie. So,
Oh, I rewatch that movie all the time, so that's why that performance is in my head.
I love you so much.
And it's fun. It's interesting to point out, and it's also immensely depressing that Kevin Costner is only 36 in this movie.
Yeah, he says it even in the
Yeah.
movie. Because I'm 36 and I own a farm.
What? I had to write that down. Like, what?
That's as upsetting as the time I learned I'm the same age as Homer Simpson. That's that sent me into a depression.
But like, so then they go to the baseball game, and it almost then it sort of comes out that like everyone's kind of because we're talking about how the wife kind of goes along with it, but then you have that scene where before he goes to ease the pain, she starts describing the dream that she had. And he's like, we had the same dream.
Oh my
so now
God.
they're both involved. And then when he
fuck?
gets out James Earl Jones, you see something that appears on the scoreboard and he sort of writes it down. Moonlight Graham, 1 at bat, no runs or something like that, no hits.
Yeah.
And then James Earl Jones is just going, he goes, you didn't see that? I guess he didn't need to be there. But then suddenly he stops him in his car and he goes, Moonlight Graham, you saw it too? He's like, all right. And it's
That whole thing is such a stretch for me. Like,
but the thing about it is because that's when I got to the whole, well, what are we going to do? Question the universe? Clearly something is happening. You and I had the same dream. You and I saw the same thing. Fuck it.
I'm still unclear, and maybe I don't know if this has ever been answered or if it's just up for interpretation, but is the baseball diamond that he built heaven, or are these guys already in heaven? And then they're just like, this baseball field is just kind of like adjacent to it, so they could just go to it.
Ryan, it is explained twice in the movie. It isn't heaven, it's Iowa. Come on, man. He explicitly says it twice. But no, dude, Ryan, this entire movie is up for interpretation. Again,
Okay.
it's not yours is not the reason why, yours are just to watch the movie or die.
So then they go to find Moonlight Graham, who is now, since not he left. And again, the thing with all the baseball players is the through line is that they never really got their shot to like properly play baseball, or like they only played 1 inning or got 1 hit or something like that. Like the doctor who left his career of baseball to then become a doctor, but he's also died.
Yes. So they turn up to see Moonlight Graham. They find
explain
out,
this one to me.
Yeah, okay, I will try. I will just explain the plot, but don't ask me to explain the plot.
Yeah.
Is that they turn up to meet Moonlight Graham, and they heard that Doc Graham died years before. So then Terrence Mann, James Earl Jones's character, starts doing what he does best. Starts doing research. So he starts interviewing people from all over town, and he's giving all this info to Kevin Costner about, the great things that he's done, and then the rumor about, like, he played baseball, got one opportunity. And then Kevin Costner goes for a walk and walks through a wormhole, apparently. And suddenly he is sort of maybe 10, 15, it's The Godfather or something was being...
yeah, it's like 72, because he looks at like the license plate.
Yeah. So then he meets Moonlight Graham and has a chat with him, and he says, look, I feel like I'm supposed to take you. And Moonlight is kind of like the exact same character as the grumpy old doctor from Doc Hollywood, with 6 degrees of Michael J. Fox, is that he's like, the same thing as here's my legacy, is like, all these people I've treated, all these things, all this stuff that I've done, I wouldn't trade it. So he goes, no, I'm not coming with you. And I got to get back, otherwise my lady's going to think I've got a girlfriend. And he gives that, that
great line. I mean, Bergland, he crushes it. He was great in this.
Crushes this movie. He's amazing in this movie.
Yeah.
He's barely in it for 8 minutes, but I'm sure he should have got an Oscar for it because he's killing it in this movie.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. But then So they're like, okay, so then James Hart Jones and Kevin are confused. And so they're driving back home in 1989. And then they drive through a wormhole? Or young Archie Graham from the 1940s
This fucking scene. Oh my God.
walks
They
through
just
a
pull over.
wormhole.
They pull over and pick up this kid. And you already know who it is, but then he drops down. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a baseball player." I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ!
and it's Archie Graham.
Okay. That's where the thread of this really starts to unravel for me. I'm like, oh,
well, okay, fine. Explain to me this then, okay? Because this when they get back to Iowa. There's the brother of Amy Madigan, played by Timothy Busfield, who I love from West Wing.
I love him. Yeah, he's
great in West Wing. I always love him from that. Okay, right. Why can some people not see the players?
I don't know what that fucking look like. I don't understand this movie. I've got more questions than you do. I think it's because, if I had to guess, it's because they don't believe. It's like the only thing you can really say is like, you know, if you can't see it, you're kind of a dick. And you know, he is, but he's still kind of sincere, and he wants to do right, and he's trying to help, but also he's got money on the mind, and I don't know. It's a weird dynamic.
He's kind of a weird brother, isn't he? Because he basically buys out their mortgage with a pair of partners to force them to sell to him. I'm like,
but if he didn't, someone else would have, and I think he was, in a way, I was like, but still a dick move. I get it, like,
yeah.
But
and also, he almost kind of killed their daughter for like 30 seconds.
Yeah,
it was a blink and you miss it moment. It looked like he pushed the little girl off of the bleachers, and then she, let me get this right, choked on a hot dog.
Yeah. Well,
was he eating a hot dog before? I didn't see that.
He was sitting there. And there was also a bit where the little girl gives that whole like speech.
Which was great. She was fantastic.
You'll see. No, they won't even know why. They'll just turn off the highway, see? That was actually
It's played by a young Adam Driver. Fun fact.
If you haven't already picked this up at home, at some point Will has figured out a way to always find someone in the movie that is potentially a young Adam Driver.
Yeah. Adam Driver, who is not a child actor, but has big child actor energy to me. I don't know why. I look at him and I'm like,
okay,
I feel like he should have been a child actor. He's got that aura, but
he's Lucas.
It's never too late. It's never too late.
Yeah.
Never too late to be a child actor.
But I love that they leave all the, if you can even call it exposition, to this small child who sees the world in wild and wondrous ways and has to explain it to us. I'm like,
I mean, I do like the shot where the brother is just walking towards them.
Oh, that was great.
And where the game's happening, and like the pitch comes in, and the guy behind him is being restrained.
Well, I mean, it looks like they really threw a pitch and swung a bat. I was like, whoa.
I was wondering about that. When that really scene came up, I was watching close. Like, did they do that for real? Because I'm like,
Corridor Crew, get at us.
Yeah, I know exactly. React, Corridor Crew. We want to know.
I know for a fact, if I was in the world of this movie, I would not see these baseball players. I'm way too cynical. There's no fucking way.
You'd be buying their farm, and then you'd raise it to the ground just to
burning it,
them.
Just burning it. Yeah.
These baseball players. These players. I mean.
You dick.
These characters, and I do got to double check this. I don't know if Shoeless Joe Jackson. I think he was a real guy.
Shoeless Joe Jackson?
Yeah. No. Oh God. Oh God. What point was I making?
Write that down.
About whether they were real or not, Will. About whether they were real.
Yeah. But I was surprised that was, because it's been a while since I've seen this movie. What they're talking about, the reason why they were banned from baseball was for, taking a dive intentionally. A very real thing that happened in baseball, and it's like led to a bunch of massive laws that like altered how people gamble on sports, and it was like such a real thing that had like massive consequences throughout all sports.
It's happened in basketball with Operation Flagrant Foul. It's happened in football where it was like being fixed. It's happened in tennis where line judges. I mean, like, it really has, like, when you get that, the dark hand of organized crime just starts tipping the scales with big
all of FIFA.
Money. Yeah.
All of FIFA.
So now, just to go back to what you were saying, Will, because I didn't. Shocker, I did no research on this movie after I got done watching it. But did that really happen in this particular instance with those ball players?
Yeah.
Was that true?
Yeah, they were. There's actually a lot of evidence. Like, this movie, it's funny because this movie like so romanticizes it, like they never got to play the game again. But if you look into the real case, it's like, oh no, they were really working with like organized crime, and like there's plenty of evidence that they were pretty scummy about it.
Yeah.
But it's funny because like unlike basketball or unlike football, where there have been these similar scandals, for some reason when it's baseball, it's very romantic and it's very much like, if only they got the chance to play again. And it's like these guys were criminals. Like,
well,
I don't know. But
it's the 1919 World Series that Shoeless Joe and 7 other White Sox players were accused of taking $5,000 through the series. But during that same series, Shoeless Joe hit 12 base hits, which set a record that wasn't broken until 1964. So if he's trying to throw the series, the guy set a record that stood for 50 years. In 21, they were acquitted by a Chicago jury, but the newly appointed commissioner of baseball imposed a lifetime ban on all 8 players. So I guess that what they're getting into is, if you look at it from the fact that Shoeless Joe set a record that lasted 50 years and they were technically exonerated, in 21, they were still banned from playing baseball for their entire life.
So then you think in the 20s, it was who caught them? It was Elliot Ness, played by
Kevin Costner.
That's the sequel to
Guys, we're overlapping here. I love it.
I want to see. We've honestly, the amount of overlap previous movies so far.
I was gonna say the only thing that could have, if they couldn't have gotten Burt Lancaster to play Moonlight, could they have gotten Sean Connery and get them two back together again?
Oh my God,
you're fucking with a G here, pal.
Playing the same character. God, give me that.
That would have been awesome. That would have been too cool.
So like you referenced, that gets to the bit where while they're all trying to figure it out, it's getting a bit heated, and the little girl falls off the bleachers, and she dies just immediately, dead. And like at this point, you kind of like suddenly Archie Graham, the young boy who becomes Doc Graham, you see him walk up to the edge of the field. He takes a step off, and suddenly, suddenly. The really young dead ghost becomes an older version dead ghost of the dead ghost, who then goes over and is not a ghost. And he goes, "This child is choking to death." He's so calm about it. And then sort of helps the child cough up the thing. But for me, it's the bit where he says bye to the players and he just does this. He does the wave thing. He just does this like, it's almost like, yes, Burt Lancaster turned up for his day play. They just nailed it. And he's like, for all the other actors going, "All right, fellas, that's how you do it," and just walks off into heaven. I'm like,
hey, Bert, we still got more to shoot. Bert,
bye, guys. Bye. I'm vanishing, guys. Vanishing. Bye.
Yeah, I wrote in my notes because I fucking lost it at this scene. First of all, it's so jarring seeing this little child fall off of those bleachers and hearing this like echoing thud.
Yeah, right. It's like the thud that Wile E. Coyote makes.
Yeah,
falls off a thing.
You see like the puff of smoke comes out. But I wrote in my notes, I'm like, oh my God, Ghost Doctor can't get off the field. What the fuck? I was just screaming. I was screaming at my television.
It's honestly, you've completely changed the way I'm ever going to watch this movie. And it's like, you haven't ruined it for me. Trust me. I've seen this movie dozens of times. I cry at the end every single goddamn time because that is just the way it happens. Because if you have a feeling, or if you've ever had a father, you're going to cry. It's kind of like if you're watching Rudy and you don't cry, you don't have a soul. It's like, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
But no joke. I mean, like watching this movie from now on, I'm always going to remember Ryan's voice in my head, just going, "What the hell is going on?"
Yep. Mm-hmm. Ease your pain.
But then we get like the final cathartic. I mean, the thing is that it has been set up from the beginning. He does have throwaway lines of like, "My dad this, my dad that, we never this, we never that." But you've never really thinking about it being about his dad. You're always thinking it's about Shoeless Joe.
I kind of knew the whole time. Like, I mean, the whole point of leading up to this, I'm like, oh, I bet he's gonna see his dad at the end. Who he has like a throwaway line that his dad like played a small bit of baseball, right?
Yeah.
So I still don't get it. It's only, what about all the fucking bad ghosts? Can they just come onto this baseball field too and just? Or do we have like a 13 ghost situation where they're just all cursed?
That's Nightmare Field. That's the next cornfield.
God,
dude,
that would be a great.
That would be a great premise.
Right Nightmare Field. Yeah.
Dark version of Field of Dreams. Guys, write that one
Jeffrey
down.
Are there other field? Is there another? Is there like a a field cinematic universe where someone builds like a cricket field, like a soccer pitch,
Yeah.
or
And the
I don't know.
Donner
Yeah,
Party comes out of
guys.
the Nightmare Field corn. Yeah.
No, it's Field of Nightmares. Field of
Field
Nightmares.
of Screams. Field of Screams.
Field of Screams.
There we go.
That's
Right
the
there.
title.
There.
All
Right
right,
there.
podcast's over. We've got a
Yeah.
script to write. Field
New
of
shirt
Screams.
coming soon.
I swear to God.
Field of Scream.
They're throwing baseballs that have got like big teeth in them and it just
Yeah.
biting people's faces off. Oh, guys, I would watch the
Yeah,
shit out
all
of it.
the Hellraisers come out and
Okay, if you're listening, copyright United
Yeah.
States of Movie Industries.
patent pending. Yeah. But yeah, the ending of this movie, you're right. Like you even said, and I didn't want to believe it. I'm like, because for me, it just gets increasingly more ridiculous. And then it gets to the end, the next thing I know, I'm like, what is this salty discharge coming out of my face?
I'm glad you said face.
Yeah, well, we haven't gotten to Sleeping with the Enemy yet, so
Or the Crazies.
or
No.
the Crazies. Yeah.
Well, then you also have the very final shot of the movie, which is a good shot, where he's playing catch, and then the helicopter starts pulling up, and then you see this huge line
Why?
of cars. All because the little girl told us, because they're gonna not know, right? See, they're gonna turn off the highway, and they're gonna pay an entrance fee, and they're not gonna
Well,
know.
why? But that's what I'm saying. Like, only 3 people have seen this ghost game. So who is spreading the word? It makes no sense. I guess though, if you go back
you
to
wouldn't
like,
go to a field where like a whole bunch of ghosts were playing sports. Like,
how has anyone
come
heard
on.
about this? Like,
Because-
there's no other time jump. It happens immediately.
It's because they just. I think it's kind of like a combination of the Rapture, but God's a baseball fan.
Do they all have the same dream? Are they all eating $7 hot dogs? I don't understand.
You know, and the thing about it is, which is like, is that then after this movie was done, the farmer that had it grew corn, but then the next year put the baseball field back, then kept it for like a long time, and it was just free. And then capitalism with a capital C turned up, and it's now been bought by Field of Dream Enterprises or something. They're building a 3,000-seater stadium right there. They're building a whole. They're basically ruining it, which is really sucks. And then
Shoeless Joe is rolling over in his grave.
yeah, but 2020, he's going to come back and haunt the shit out of that place.
Yeah.
But they actually now have a Field of Dreams game in
Yeah, I
the
saw
MLB season every year now.
That's cool.
So they had like, for me, I'm like, okay, sell it to someone, but they're like, okay, we can make X amount of money if we keep it exactly the same, or hear me out, we build a huge sports complex. And I go, you mean defeat the entire purpose of this whole
much like her brother in this film has
Yes!
just fucking dollar signs for eyeballs.
That's exactly the point I'm trying to make, is that it turns out that the brother
Have
won.
we learned no lessons from this movie?
None whatsoever. Hey,
We're
do you
burning
wanna have-
books. We're selling ghost tickets.
Yeah. Hey, do you guys want to go into the Have a Catch with Your Dead Dad booth? It's $25.
For an extra $5, you can push your kid off the bleachers.
You might get a lot of takers on that. I don't know.
There's that
I was
shame
kind of a
kid.
crappy kid, so my parents would have definitely been like, sure.
All right. I'm willing to say that we have successfully destroyed Field of Dreams as a movie for me and literally dozens of listeners. So let's move on. Oh my God, Ryan, I knew you were going to do this to Field of Dreams for me, and I'm very, very happy that you did. Rest in peace, Field of Dreams.
Just to say, I really loved this movie. I absolutely did. And I think
God, I'd love to
most
hear what you
viewers
said if
do.
you'd hated it.
Well, we're pretty close. It's a marginal line here. But, no, I did love it. I just wasn't expecting it to be so absurd. Like I said at the beginning, I thought it was a much more serious film, and I guess it kind of is. But Will, you said it best earlier too. Like, this is such a genre movie that really skirts the line of being this like really serious, heartfelt thing surrounded by the most insane plot you've ever like concocted. It's just wild. But
So kind of what you're saying, Ryan, with your feelings of this movie, that there's a thin line between love and hate, much like in Sleeping with the Enemy, the 1991 movie. You're welcome. So let's jump into Sleeping with the Enemy. We all first-time watchers for Sleeping with the Enemy.
Yeah.
I'd only
I've
seen,
never
like I
seen it
said,
before.
parodies of it. So I was familiar with the plot, but I'd never seen it.
I do love that your reaction to every movie is, I saw the sequel first or I saw the parody first.
Yep. I can't explain it, guys. I was at a perfect age where everything I saw was on HBO on TV, and it was usually always sequels. So
Honestly, I watched Rambo. I remember watching Rambo 3, then Rambo 2, then Rambo 1. Very different viewing experience when you go backwards.
Yeah.
You're like, this is getting better as it's going along.
I watch Expendables 4 and Demolition Man.
That's a lie. Nobody's seen Expendables 4. That's not even a real movie.
Well, you can't even. You have to say
Expendables.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible.
They were like, guys.
Didn't they learn from the Fan Four Stick? Friggin' idiots. Anyway,
Man.
Sleeping with the Enemy. Here we go.
Sleeping with the Enemy. Like I was saying, another movie that wastes no time whatsoever. And I will give credit to this movie that it starts off and it's like you were in Cape Cod and there's this beautiful but also kind of scary looking house, but it's shot very well. You know, it's all proper location, you can tell, because it's all glass and it's all background and it's all interiors and stuff like that. It's magical, actually.
Yeah, and you don't see any other houses. It just seems like it's just that one house. Yeah. I mean, I know they have their neighbor, but that house is like a fucking monolith on this beach.
It is, yeah, it is gargantuan. And it's got like the opening sort of 5-6 minutes are almost idyllic. And then there's this little moment where it's like where he says, "Oh, it's a really nice dress," and she's like, and he goes, "Oh, I kind of want you to wear the black one." And then we cut to the next scene, and she's wearing the black one, but it's still he's being kind of nice. And then the next one is like, the hand towels aren't lined up. This guy has crazy sort of like OCD. So like she apologizes, and he goes, "No need to apologize, but I tell you so you can learn." And she's like, "Thank you." And you go, "That's a bit weird." And then he goes and talks to the neighbor who's got the boat, and the guy was, "Oh, that must be your wife. She's beautiful. You're very lucky. I see her looking from the window." And then he goes in, and then just in the blink of an eye, he smacks the crap out of her.
Yeah. Then well, he doesn't like you said before. He doesn't blink.
But I think that's a definite character choice.
Yeah,
it's a character choice, because I only noticed about halfway through, and then I started focusing on it, and you realize that in any scene where he is talking to anyone, he never blinks.
Yeah. Ever. I didn't even notice that because I was too busy looking at the most amazing mustache I've ever seen on a villain.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Pretty majestic mustache. Actually, do you want me to connect this to Field of Dreams in a way? Because Patrick Bergin also played Robin Hood in the movie Robin Hood that came out the same year as Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and it got completely blown out of the water by American Robin Hood.
There were two... Oh, shit.
That's what I mean. No one's heard of this one because it was the other one that was made, I think, produced by John McTiernan, funnily enough.
I've only seen Robin Hood Men in Tights.
That's right. I've only seen the parody.
I can't speak to that.
And Robin Hood 2, Robin in the Hood. But yeah, talk about like what did you guys for me that first 10 minutes I was like, oh shit, like okay, like and this guy Patrick Bergin, this character, legitimately scary.
Yeah, and you really see like her, like you live through her fear of that character too, because I mean it's Julia Roberts. She's absolutely stunning in this movie, and you just know that it's not gonna go great, you know.
Well, something about like Julia Roberts has always had is the sad eyes, big smile. Yeah. She can do that really well. She's done that in Pretty Woman. She does it in every movie she's ever done. I mean, I adore Julia Roberts. I've had a crush on her since forever when I was a boy. It's just she was that beautiful curly hair and that big smile and that goofy laugh that she has. But yeah, you kind of see that she plays off that terrified, scared, kind of like trying to grin through it and hide from other people the reality of the situation really well.
Yeah, even later on, when she's trying to, like, all of her fears, like, you know, she's got like, she's very like closed off, and it takes a while for her to like open up when she meets her neighbor with the most insane mullet I've ever seen. It was so luxurious.
He's trying to out hair Julia Roberts, and it's close.
Yeah. But she's just, the second her husband snaps, it's like she's been developing this. She's had this plan all along. She's just, and you think she even says that she's just waiting for the perfect time for him to not be looking at her. Mm-hmm. So they go on this, her husband has this conversation with their neighbor who has a boat, and he's like, I'm always trying to get my wife out on this boat, but she can't swim. She's had this traumatic experience where she almost drowned. Meanwhile, she's been practicing and learning how to swim.
We don't know that. We don't find that out for 45 minutes.
Right. Yeah. So like, that flashback is cool.
All we see her do is take a stone and very accurately, she's a very good thrower.
Immediately,
just smashes 2 light bulbs. I'm like, good for you. Much like Catwoman with the whip. So she smashes 2 lights, and again, that doesn't tell us why. I quite like that the movie takes us along this route before it then takes us back to show us the what happened kind of thing, because we experience it kind of from the husband's perspective in a way, that suddenly they go out on this boat. It's supposed to be a clear night, but it's not. I was wondering, did Julia Roberts actually talk with that doctor and know that it was going to be a stormy night and plan this? Because there's no way, because she broke the lights. Was she always planning on going overboard on a calm night?
I don't know.
It's just
they
fluke,
never
right?
really allude to the fact that her and the neighbor ever actually like talked or communicated. It's like they just had these.
It's just a little plot hole for me that I was just. It was like there's a little. Like a little donut.
Because up until that point, you really only ever see her in the house. Like you just think she's just there all the time as like a prisoner. So I don't know. I mean, is it the most daring prison escape? I'm going to go out on a limb here. Are you suggesting that she's putting together a team? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, Will, Medi, you're muted, buddy.
All right. Am I still? No, you can
your
hear
dog.
me. Okay.
Your neighbor's dog was barking, right?
Yep. Yeah. Trying to make another guest appearance, but yeah, I forgot what we said. Oh, Julia Roberts, multiple Julia Roberts. We're putting together a team of Julia Roberts. That's what we're talking about.
Well, because she's got the Julia Roberts that she presents, and then there's the real Julia Roberts who has been sneaking off, has been lying about going to work at the library, but has actually been secretly taking swimming lessons to become the greatest open water swimmer of all time. She's faked her own mother's death and taken her mother, because it was that one time, there was like that line about, wow, what a psychopath, because she's like, has dinner ever been late? And he goes, I do remember once 6 months ago. She goes, yeah, when I went to my mother's funeral. And you're just like, wow, this guy he brings the receipts and he brings the asshole receipts right along with it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's just absolutely terrifying in this role. I've really never seen him in anything else. I know you mentioned that Robin Hood movie, but I don't really know him from anything. And because once he shaved that mustache, I don't care.
He loses all his magic.
You're dead. You're dead to me.
Oh yeah, no, he's in Patriot Games as well, as Kevin O'Donnell in Patriot Games. So he's one of the bad guys, which is another Jack Ryan movie. Boom, another connection. These are just coming thick and fast today. But like, it's so the premise kind of like, we've done it again. So Julia Roberts is a battered wife who fakes her own death and runs off to Iowa to start a new life. And it was quite jarring that within a minute of arriving in Iowa, she's one, noticed the neighbor, but then two, that neighbor is a little bit pushy with a woman that's being a battered wife. You know, it's like his initial approaches were all like, hey, bro, maybe dial it down to a 5.
Well, she's stealing his apples, man. But I think it's a purposeful setup to, to establish how fearful she is after everything she's been through. So that it makes sense. But they do make him like super terrifying. I think like off the bat.
Yeah, they do. And like also that in Iowa, people just walk into other people's houses like willy-nilly.
Right.
Like, no problem. Just rock up into somebody's house. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I scare you? Yeah. You're in my house, bro.
Where's that pie?
Yeah.
Your neighbors don't do that, Ollie?
No. Just rock up with an apple pie just standing in my kitchen in the middle of the night. What?
Why is there a hole in it? Shit, wrong pie.
Yeah, that guy, he was definitely coming off. I couldn't tell if it was like because of the time it was written in, like it was made in the early 90s. I couldn't tell if this was just a lack of awareness or just they were intentionally trying to make him seem also creepy in the beginning.
And he has a creepy look too for that period. Like he's wearing a mock turtleneck, he's got the mullet. There's just something about his facial structure. Like you just don't know if he's good or bad. He just doesn't look like your typical like safe bet in a movie like this. Like,
yeah, I mean he softens up, but I know what you mean. I do think it was slightly deliberately set up for him to be just a little, because I don't know, I had the same thought. I go, turtleneck, don't trust that guy.
Drama teacher, not on my watch. I
kind of agree with what Will was saying, is that if you at the same time, movies made back then, the approach of the guy was, well, if at first you don't succeed, try again.
Just keep pushing.
He's got a great line after their first interaction. He's like, which even I was like, damn, that's pretty good. He's like, I'm going to be making dinner tomorrow and I'll set 2 places for you. But if you don't show up, it's fine. And I was like, I mean, I'm going.
And
And then he immediately burns the meatloaf.
the pot roast is on fire.
Yeah.
It's like, how did you do that, buddy?
And he still serves it. He still serves it. He still brings
it's
it
like,
out.
here you go.
Yeah, that's what they have for dinner. That's crazy.
Yeah.
burnt meat. You're welcome. Welcome to Iowa.
But it's great. Like,
it's for me, it's like, again, kind of like I said earlier, I think there's 20 minutes of this movie that's missing. I think there should have been a longer establishing of her life in Iowa and us getting a little bit comfortable before the rug gets pulled out, because the rug gets pulled out real quick. That like we cut back to Patrick Bergin in his big office, because he's like an investment guy or whatever, and he gets a phone call from the really dedicated but really too open lady from the YWCA. And he's like, what are you talking about? And she, oh no, she comes on a Monday and a Wednesday and a Friday between these hours where she was swimming, and she was a bad swimmer, but then she became a really good swimmer. And I'm like, oh man, you're giving too much of the game away here. And then as well is that and we'll talk about this scene in detail as well a bit more, but is that when Julie Roberts goes to visit her mum, and she goes, I'm good, Mum. I've met a guy. He teaches drama at Cedar Rapids in Iowa, whatever the name of the city is. And I go, oh, you're giving too much information. That's the one bit of information that the mum gives to the dad, the husband. I'm like, oh, everyone just needs to shut up. Everyone's way too nosy and telling too much, giving. Just considering she's trying to hide and has faked her death, everyone knows way too much about this.
Yeah. And what is that scene where where he gets that phone call before or after he's like walking on the dock and gets the glass stuck in his leg he notices the light bulbs? I think that was that first.
Very close. They're almost back to back, I think.
Yeah. It's like his slowly uncovering the fact that his wife might still be alive. Then he finds the wedding band, and then he just goes full fucking crazy.
The wedding band. So I'm watching it and I'm like going, she's done really well. It's a pretty good plan. And then so
she knows, it's established how meticulous this guy is.
Yeah,
right?
And also how meticulous she was with her plan. Right. She had the hidden bag, the stash bag. We see how she actually got off the boat, held onto the buoy, swam.
Made the most insane long distance swim. Even as a professional swimmer, could be fucking wild.
But she broke the lights, so she knew where to go. When she got in the house, though, I'm like, oh man, she's just got out of the ocean and she's got sand all over, and she runs across this shiny floor. I'm like, oh my god. He's going to know that she was there. No, you see her cleaning the floor. She gets everything done. But it was the bit where she took off her wedding ring and threw it in the toilet. I go, oh, that's not going to work. Like, you need to have wrapped it up in tissue or something. And then that becoming the big plot point. Because I actually said it out loud to the TV and go, oh, what are you doing?
That's the part you don't believe? How many times have you flushed your wedding ring down the toilet?
That's what it means. Like, that is so sloppy. Everything else was so meticulous. I go, that you could have thrown it anywhere on the beach.
I was wondering,
ocean, for God's sake.
Did they show her, because they show her putting the ring, like throwing because she cuts her hair off, she puts that in the toilet. Does she then, because I don't remember if she puts the ring in the toilet and then flushes it. I think she
does flush it. Okay, it's just one of those like low flush toilets that just,
It's a toilet with a joke hole that's just for farts.
It's just for farts. I was wondering why she didn't, like, my first thought was, oh, she's going to pawn it for more money. Like, and the fact that she didn't do that, I'm like, what are you don't have any income, lady. Like, what are you doing?
She's got all her library money, man. What are you talking about?
Apparently a lot of money for that library.
Enough for rent and first and last months, which was
it's $2,100 that she just happily hands over for like 3 months rent. I was like,
so, and then she's renting this place and then immediately starts painting it. I'm like, whoa.
And seeing with furniture too, and she's just painting the kitchen. I'm like, wow, that's I rented my house here, and they took off all of my wardrobe doors and created a whole thing in my loft. I go, who the hell do you think you are? Like, you took my wardrobes apart, you psychopaths. But
but they brought you an apple pie, so it's all good.
Don't trust renters. I'll tell you that much. So what then happens is, honestly, this movie does a really great job of keeping us kind of nervous. Yeah. Because they, like I said, I was like, I wish they'd give us a little bit before they pulled the rug out. But that being said, the momentum of Patrick Bergin following these breadcrumbs, getting these little bits. So he then goes to the home where her mum passed away, and they're like, she didn't pass away. Julie Roberts came 6 months ago, and moved her. And then he realizes, okay, it couldn't have been that far because she wasn't that well. He hires a private investigator and hires 3 of them and says, $20,000 bonus. You know, if you can say $10,000 whoever finds, $10,000 for you.
Which never comes up again, right? Like they don't.
Well, I think it's just then assumed that that's how he then walks into the place where Mum is.
Yeah.
These guys,
which
these
is in
guys have figured it
Minnesota, I
out.
think. So there's a lot of driving in this movie.
Yeah,
it seems like.
But it sets up what I thought was a really good scene, which is because Julia Roberts is basically like everyone knows her secret. You know, so she's on the Greyhound, and the old lady next to her with an apple gives her the apple, and in 3 seconds figures out your friend. Oh, it was you. And then she turns up in Iowa and goes out on one date with Kevin Anderson, and he's like, "So what's your real name and what's actually going on?" And she says, "Oh, yeah, I faked my death." And I'm like, "Oh, for God's sake, you are the worst at this." But
it won't come up.
but it sets up that because he does drama, and you get that really cute scene of them trying on.
Yeah, that was adorable. Yeah,
you know, and it's just her being Julia Roberts about things and just giggling and smiling. But he helps her put on a disguise, another fantastic moustache and an outfit, and like the wig on, and she goes to the care home where her mum is. Mum has had a stroke and is blind. That is a plot point. But at the same time, we realize Patrick Bergen's character is there, and they're doing this kind of. There are either ends,
almost like a Ferris Bueller type of.
Yes,
right.
You're so close to discovering.
Like Rooney, yeah, exactly. And then there's a bit where like they're at the water thing, and she's drinking. By the way, can we talk about even Patrick Bergen even drinks water like a psychopath?
Yeah.
The water's running, and he kind of just.
That close-up was so long.
He performs cunnilingus on a water fountain is the only way that I can like fully describe how uncomfortable.
Michael Douglas was famously his acting coach. That's where That's another connection from Basic
He got
Instinct.
throat cancer from that water fountain. Yeah.
Oh my God. This movie, but that shot made me so uncomfortable. I mean, like, and he does it 3 times. I mean, the first time I went, "Ooh." And then he did it 2 more times. I'm like, okay, the guy's a monster. We can't say away.
I kept thinking, like, throughout my watch of this, like, he's the best part of this movie.
Big time.
Like, he's so great. And every time he's about to, like, literally, he gets the next little bit of information, you can see him just go, "Oh my God, I'm going to fucking lose my mind."
Yeah.
Because you've seen him do it.
Yeah. Because he's like, for him, he's a nice guy. You know, and it's like the humiliation. It's like, you know, when he first hits her, he goes, "Well, you're humiliating me in front of our neighbor." You know, so the humiliation that he feels, not that anyone else knows it, but he feels so humiliated. His manhood has been so destroyed. He feels so emasculated by this woman that's outsmarted him that he has to destroy her. And these guys exist. These people exist. You know, which is why this movie, I think, did so well, and why it sort of has stuck around. But like, he does play this character exceptionally well. I mean, he's almost like the reverse of Field of Dreams, is that he walks around like no one else exists. Like, there's a bit where he's just seen, I think, the guy come out that he's at the university. Do you notice the bit? He just walks away in a dead straight line through the middle of a pickup football game, and like between a couple of couples, like they don't exist. You know what I mean? He's kind of he's very Patrick Bateman.
Yeah.
Very American Psycho.
Yeah. That's great. That's a great analogy. And then he finds out that his wife is in this town, and she's because he goes to visit her mother in I forget if this is it's
later, because he pretends to be a policeman.
He pretends, which is again truly terrifying. Like, he's doing the voice, and he's getting really close, and he's moving, and he goes to grab the pillow, and he's feeding her the food, which, oh my God, is so unsettling.
Yeah.
Oh, and then he finds out the details that she's in this small town, and she's dating the drama teacher.
Yeah, the one bit of exposition that Julia Roberts dumped on her mother just so happens to be all the information he needs to find her.
He teaches dramatics.
At this particular
dramatics.
Here's his PO box number. But I did like that scene because that was a really tense scene.
Yeah.
And then the bit where right at the end he's approaching her with the pillow, he's about to smother her, and then the door opens and he just goes, "Here you go."
Yeah. In a more modernization of, like, a more modern take on this movie, that character would have gone on an absolute killing spree to get to this point, but none of that really happens. You know, it's pretty like, he's just as terrifying while doing none of that. You know, you would expect him to kill the old lady on the bus, kill her mother,
Right.
kill the new boyfriend. Like he would have just he would have been that psychopath.
Yeah, you're right, and it's kind of like that Jaws effect, connecting to yet another movie from our history. But it's instead of it being like you're saying, the creeping closer of these murders, these gruesome murders, to keep like the body count going. He's more of this malevolent force that's just building and building and getting closer and getting closer, while she's just kind of got this light airiness. There's the two sides of the movie just getting closer and closer.
Yeah.
And then as they start sort of overlapping, that's when things start getting weird. That it kind of reminded me of Blown Away. Remember that scene in Blown Away where we know a bomb's been put somewhere, but we don't know where.
Oh yeah.
And every little thing that they go to do, they open the fridge or they light this. It's like,
tension.
oh, it's going to be a jump. Oh, it's going to be a jump. And they had that scene a couple of times where she's going around the house and she's like, wait a minute, I don't remember those being that way. Or like how she keeps
opening the cupboard to look at, and then she finally does. I'm like, whoa, how long has he been in this house?
And then it's like, is that the same song from The Shining?
Yeah, that's definitely the same opening song. That was throwing me off. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they use that so well.
Can we just go back to the very beginning of this movie, like, because that song, oh my god, when they establish that they're together and everything's like going peachy keen and great. After this party, they get together in the kitchen and he's like, I'm gonna put on some sexy music, and he puts on that fucking song.
Yep.
That's how you know this dude is a psychopath.
I think that is the first clue that you get, because he's like, it's been almost idyllic apart from the weird dress thing.
Yeah.
And then it's like, she's like, do you want to get some food? And she gets some strawberries, and he puts on his fuck tune, bar, 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 which is the timing, I think, for his thrusts, I guess. That must be how it works.
Yeah, like you have to know, like you understand Sade was wildly popular at this time. Why not throw on some Sade?
Yeah.
You gotta go.
No Barry White, no Sade, no Billy Ray Cyrus, all very sexy songs.
Yeah.
None of it.
I just got the soundtrack to The Shining on vinyl. Pop it on. Yeah. But I like that.
Let's put on Achy
that
Breaky
comes
Heart
out
and
later.
get busy.
There you go. Yeah. But
God, I hate that song with a passion.
I was watching this movie through the lens because I kept thinking, a lot of these type of romantic thrillers at the time were very similar to this, to Woman in Distress, right? And then a year later we got Basic Instinct, which really kind of flipped that completely on its head. It was such an interesting watch with that in mind. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a pretty much by the numbers kind of thriller. You know how it's going to pan out. But then Basic Instinct comes along and does it completely differently and switches it.
What I like is that while she may have been in distress, I was worried that the boyfriend was going to save her. And I like that they didn't do that. I like that she saves herself. I like that, she was brave enough to get out herself the first time. And then, when the monster sort of returns, granted, I'm glad that the boyfriend was smart enough to realize something was off, to at least kind of react. I would have called the police first, but I really...
No, man, this is Iowa. We handle our own shit.
Yeah, police haven't been invented in Iowa yet. Yeah.
But I really like the ending part of, well, there's one part that bothers me, but the ending part of, she does call the police and he's like, what are you going to tell them? And he's doing the crazy wide-eyed stare the entire time, just never blinking. And it's her line of like, yeah, please come quickly. I've just killed an intruder. And then blat. And I'm like, oh shit. The bit that I didn't like is that the classic movie trope that you'd honestly have expected more from the Crazies is, yes, the dead guy comes back. It's as referenced in Scream, grabs her by the neck, pulls the gun on her, and then click. Yeah. Hang on, there's only 4 shots. And that's revolver. That carries like 9. So like, did the gun jam? So that's what I didn't like, is that technically, had there been a bullet, he would have got the better of her. Don't like that. Mm-hmm. He never should have got that. He should have just died a stupid, shitty little death, and that's him, because he's a little man, and that's the way he should be treated. So that's my one thing that bothered me, is that, if not for this fluke of the gun jamming, he gets the best of her. Bullshit.
For me, it was the one that when she after all that, and she runs over to the new boyfriend who's been bonked on the head. He gets up and he's like, "What'd I miss?"
That's the time for a joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
I will say that I thought that the movie was shot quite well, actually. I thought they did some really good stuff with lighting. I just liked the way it looked. I was watching it and I was like, this movie looks quite good. Because its reviews online are terrible. Like, it's like from the critics, it's got like 20%, but the audience score is something like 60 something you know, like that. I enjoyed the movie. Like I said, I would have gone for 20 more minutes of this movie, and I think I would have even enjoyed it more.
Yeah, I really liked it. I'm surprised to hear that the critic rating is so. Although I guess maybe back in the day there was a lot of very similar types of movies. I don't know, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it for me it was a fine film. I mean, am I going to rush to watch again? Probably not. But
no, I mean,
Sure.
I think kind of what you said, Ryan, is that as much as it's got Julia Roberts, you know, as she's exploding as an actress in a way, is that Patrick Bergin, it's what makes that movie what the movie is.
Yeah.
He is freaking just.
This was after Pretty Woman, I imagine.
This is 1991. Pretty Woman comes later, surely. Let me double check this.
This is before Mystic
I always
Pizza.
thought it was Pretty Woman was 80s, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah, but it's one of those. It's those movies that there's the late 80s, early 90s movies. So hang on, Richard Gere, Pretty Woman, 1990. Yeah, there you go.
This was before. This was after.
She also had Flatliners.
Yeah.
And then
Flatliners is awesome.
Famously shot by Jan de Bont.
And then and then Sleeping with the Enemy, before she does Tinkerbell in Hook. So, I mean, honestly, it's not a surprise that this movie did so well because it comes off the back of Pretty Woman. It's a little bit like when Leonardo DiCaprio did Titanic, and then everyone went to see the beach. You know, it's like, and then it was like he almost did. I was just listening to a podcast talking about American Psycho, and how Leonardo DiCaprio was essentially talked out of doing it because they were like, look, man, you've just done Titanic, right? You've got all of this fan base and all of these girls and stuff. The very next movie can't be you murdering girls. Like, you know, you can't do that. Yeah. Build up some cachet, then you can go do the weird stuff, which is exactly what he did.
Yeah. Oh, they got Christian Bale coming right off of Newsies.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I mean, again, I got into this. Like Christian Bale, I think even called DiCaprio and said, "This is my role." Yeah. You know, he said, like, "I've got to take this role." But that's such a weird movie. Honestly, I have to revisit it because I only watched it the one time, and I found it fascinating. Oh, but it's like I've got to rewatch it and like try and sort of just cut through the satire because it was a movie that was very misunderstood at the time, and it's also not a movie we're supposed to be talking about. So hang on, we'll get more. Yeah. You were asking it, Pretty Woman. It's post Pretty Woman.
Post Pretty Woman, yeah. Yeah. So it's safe to say this movie ruined her career.
Yeah. It broke the record for the highest domestic opening for a film with a female lead, grossing $13 million its opening weekend, which beat Aliens. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's nothing to... And it made 175
but not Point Break.
No, but not Point Break. Made 175 mil on a budget of $19 million.
Yeah, I mean... You think about it, I'm like the really, you look at this movie and it doesn't look like a big budget blockbuster, but it's no surprise it made as much money as it did. I'm sure it was super popular at the time.
Like music, you were talking about music by Jerry Goldsmith, and then was it James Horner did Field of Dreams? Was it?
Yeah, because when I was watching Field of Dreams, I kept thinking of they had the same kind of like piano stings from American Beauty almost. It kind of gave me that vibe with less plastic bags in the air.
So I mean, so we all enjoyed this movie. Like, we think this is a good movie. Would you recommend?
I think it's a good movie.
I would. You know, it's like I said, it's not gonna subvert any expectations. It's a pretty, by the numbers thing. Like everything that it does what it says on the tin, so to speak. But I enjoyed it. And
for the performances.
For the performances alone, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, performances definitely elevate.
And if you're a mock turtleneck fan, this movie is for you. Yeah. And if you're super into blind old ladies, boy, I got some news for you. Yeah.
If you're into both, this is your top movie of all time.
This is the greatest movie ever made. Then there you go. Yeah. The Iowa of it was quite funny. That, like I said, you get one sign that says "You're in Iowa, eat some corn."
Yeah.
And when we roll into town, it is very quaint. It is very it's like you said, it's the same town from Doc Hollywood. People are putting up the American flag. I did like that shot though, where it reflected when she was, on the bus. And they did make sure that there were at least 5 or 6 farmers in old farm style outfits sitting on bales of hay while loading up stuff into the back of their pickup trucks to go, hey, we're in Iowa. Because we definitely got that scene when we were in Field of Dreams as well, where he's like, that bit, remember when they were like, you're hearing voices? He's like, no. Like, everyone's just staring.
Oh, that was great. That was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they've heard a similar story of that before.
Yeah,
You ain't seeing ball players, are you?
I also like that shot of when he's making the ball field. Everyone's like watching from the road. Like there's nothing good on television in Iowa, so they're just gonna go watch the neighbor. There's like
no one's helping. No one's helping.
Yeah.
My theory on that was, do you reckon those were just people from the local area watching the film being made?
Your theory isn't that they were also all ghosts? You fool.
Oh, they were ghosts the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Everyone in Iowa is a ghost.
It's not about the baseball, it's about the ghosts we met along the way.
Anything else you guys want to talk about with Sleeping with the Enemy before we move on? Any other scenes? Anything jump out at you? I do like the fact that she does borrow. Everyone in movies of this era drives a convertible Ford Mustang. That's why I love Ford Mustang.
Like I said, there's a lot of driving. Like she drives from Iowa to Minnesota to visit her mother. That's crazy.
It was Minnesota or
I think there's a line where
that says Minneapolis,
that's where she is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
So I should have saved this movie for that state apparently. But the scene when just something that jumped into my head when the husband finds out that she's dating the drama teacher, he goes to seek this man out, and the classic camera shot of the guy getting into the car and he's in the backseat the whole time and he pulls the gun on him and he's like, I live with my husband, just ask anyone. And then he's like, shit, and he just bonks him on the head. He's like, don't you tell anybody, bonk.
The wrong drama teacher.
Yeah, and of course,
Well, also there's the scene which, in so many movies, especially small town movies, love to do, is because it happens in Dock Hollywood as well.
The parade,
yeah. There's a parade, but there's also the fair comes into town.
Sure.
So, it's the traveling fair. So we get the scene of they're riding the wheel while Patrick Bergen is not blinking. But that's a really cool scene. That's a good shot too, where it comes from him and it goes up. And it's like all those lights behind him and all those red lights.
It's great.
Look like a total psychopath. That's kind of what I mean. Is they did some really good stuff with light.
Yeah.
You
said. I mean, and sound. This movie looked and sounded great. It was done very well. But it was just for me, it was just like a fine. It was just a fine film.
It's not. It's not The Wraith. It's not Hard Ticket to
Thank
Hawaii.
you.
It's not Streets of Fire.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it, but. It's just Pretty Woman with a dark secret.
That's honestly, I mean, the thing is, my missus, she hates Pretty Woman. She's like, what an awful movie.
Not enough dead hookers. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is, her premise is almost like it should be. And I know, the is originally called $4,000, and the original ending of the movie, I think we talked about it, one of our very first episodes, but. The end of the movie is Richard Gere's character basically dumps her back on Sunset Boulevard, throws the $4,000 at her, and is off. Because that's kind of thing. The missus is like, that would have been way more realistic than this bullshit ending. I'm like, but it's Julie Roberts.
That probably didn't test well.
Yeah, no, it did not.
Kind of like the ending.
Yeah. That's how American Gigolo ends, right?
I was gonna say kind of like the original ending of Dodgeball, where they lose. And then it just cuts to credits, like they just immediately lose the game.
Really?
And then credits, no music. It's the funniest ending to any movie ever. And I can't believe they didn't go with it. And it's one of those, you see it, and I think I saw the deleted scene, and I died laughing for 10 minutes. It's just
that's great.
I can't watch that movie again because I'm like, that's just obviously the better ending.
You got to watch the Stiller cut.
I've heard I've heard a sequel's coming to that. There's this. Long rumored sequel. Doesn't need to have one because that movie's silly.
No.
That honestly, that's great because that's just a joke on the audience to get to the end. It's like, well there you go, and they lose.
It's the funniest possible ending for that movie. I was in tears. It's such a funny ending.
I'm gonna find that ending
because it's literally just no music. Ben Stiller's team wins. They look like upset. Credits. It just dead silence. Credits. So funny. Well, you check that out.
Speaking of movies that end on a bummer, let's segue over to our last movie.
Honestly forgot we had a third movie to talk about. I am so upset right now.
Let's get into the 2010 movie, The Crazies. Now, this is a movie that I liked. And like you guys were both like, Will, you were like, well, this was definitely a horror movie that exists in the pantheon of movies.
Yeah.
And Ryan, you were amazingly enthused.
We were talking on the text thread. It's just like, it's such a weird, it was 2010 this came out.
Yeah.
And it was just like every horror movie looked like this. Like they were all borrowing the same camera, the same center photographer. It had that grainy kind of puke green cinematography to it. And I think, like, I don't know if this is true, but it seems like Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead was kind of the first to do that. I mean, this movie opens with a Johnny Cash song because of course it fucking does.
You're right. Yeah.
But I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I just thought it could be 20 minutes. I thought it was 20 minutes too long.
You know, it's the early 2000s was when Steven Spielberg and his cinematographer started doing everything really blown out. You know, like everything was really white. So it kind of like changed. I mean, you remember the way the
Minority Report, right?
Minority Report, exactly. And it's like, and we did the same sort of thing with Band of Brothers, not Band of Brothers, but Private Ryan.
Saving Private
And
Ryan.
so, I feel like that Spielberg did it, and he did this washed out kind of look that then other movies tried doing for a while. I think, Will, you were the one that was saying is that this period of movies, it was not a good looking period. You know, now in retrospect, because they did something different. It was exciting and new because everything had been so colorful up until then. So then it's post 9/11. Steven Spielberg goes, "We have no more color. Everything is just basically grays and whites."
Yeah.
And then I feel like it bled into other movies. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this definitely, I would describe this movie as like Dawn of the Dead light. It's very much trying to be like the 2004 Dawn of the Dead remake, except for you don't have James Gunn writing it, so
it's not fun.
It just doesn't really pop at all. And like a lot of movies from this time just have this really washed out gray look. I mean, Coen Brothers also kind of started it with like Oh Brother Where Art Thou. It's just everybody started to get into like the digital color process, but didn't quite know how to do it. So you'd have great movies. Like I love Minority Report and Oh Brother Where Art Thou are great. But you had all these other people who then just took that and were trying to like incorporate that in their movie where it doesn't belong. And this is an era of movies where the 2000s, I think, is just not just visually a low point, but I think overall you got good movies for sure. But overall, I think most of the movies are kind of bland. It's not till you get to the 2010s where they remembered, oh yeah, we can make good movies. We can make Inception and Mad Max, and movies got really good again.
We can utilize color more effectively. Yeah.
Right.
It's just, this was also in that period where they were just remaking every like horror film from the 70s. Like it was The Hills Have Eyes was another one.
Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah. Texas Chainsaw. I think Friday the 13th was remade. I think Nightmare on Elm Street. Like they're just like, let's take all of these things that you love and ruin them. It's a good thing they're not doing that anymore.
Trend is totally stopped.
They figured that out. They learned their lesson.
Though I am looking forward to the Toxic Avenger, I will say.
And I hear Oppenheimer 2's coming out as well.
Yeah, still Oppen, baby.
Less Oppen, more happen. So this movie is set in Iowa. Spoiler alert. Timothy Olyphant, who is good in everything he's ever done. I'm going to say that. I just think he's he should have been bigger.
Bring back Santa Clarita Diet, you cowards.
I've heard that was actually quite fun. It's got a cool
he was
premise.
fantastic on that what was that show? Las Vegas.
Vegas, yeah.
He was great on that.
That's
and
Josh
the Transformers
Dumbhammer.
movies.
That's Josh Dumbhammer.
See, the guys on the text thread were talking about how much Timothy Olyphant and Josh Duhamel look alike, and then I always found that particularly funny because I used to have a television show in Asia that aired back to back with Las Vegas. So there was Las Vegas, then it was Sony style, and so they do the promos. And at the time, Josh Duhamel and I had the exact same look, completely clean shaven, short brown hair. We'd be side by side on the screen. That I was recognized as Josh Duhamel many, 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 many times by people going, you know who you look like? I go, Josh Duhamel. They go, yeah. And then funnily enough, I was just in Georgia on, we were doing the road trip and we stopped in a restaurant and there were two ladies on the table next to us and they were looking at me and she's like, you look like that white boy. And I go, oh yeah, who are you talking about? And I was like, thinking like, because I was during the pandemic getting a lot of Keanu Reeves when I had long hair and I had my beard. And I was like, I was wondering where she was going with this. She goes, you know, that guy from, and I go, wait a minute, you talking about Josh Duhamel? Yeah, she goes, the guy from Transformers. And I'm like, oh shit, well, there you go. I guess it still happens in 2023. Don't see it anymore personally.
It's better than what I ever got, which is the closest someone's ever mistaken me for is Borat. So you got that one on me there.
Hey, Jason Mantzoukas. I'll give you that one too.
Yeah.
Now you're talking.
He cares? He got the scraggly beard. It worked. What are we talking about? The Crazies. Yeah, and you know what? I like the premise of this movie. It was quite kind of like I told you with the other ones, where like the movie sets up in 5 minutes. It's like we've barely figured out that we're in Iowa. We figured out it's opening day for like Little League. We figured out he's the sheriff and who the headmaster is. And then before we know it, some guy walks out into the middle of a baseball field with a gun. And it takes a long time for anyone to even run away or react. And I'm like, geez, man, people are way too comfortable around guns.
They're just really into the ball game.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. But then it comes to this sort of like, and he's kind of got this dead-eyed look. And Timothy Oliphant is the quickest draw in Iowa. Did you notice that? That his gun is still clipped, and the guy pulls his shotgun up to shoot him, and he has, in that time, unclipped, pulled the gun out, and shot the guy. I'm like, wow, this guy, he plays the same character that he does in The Mandalorian. He's a quick draw sheriff.
Yeah.
From a small town.
He's so great in everything. I love him.
Yeah. I was gonna say, between that and Justified, Mandalorian, like he's got a skill and it's looking really good. Like while he's quick draw,
and he's good at looking scary too. Like I remember him from the movie Go, which is a movie about ecstasy, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's a great movie. That's oh my god, that's the same guy that that directed Edge of Tomorrow, Doug Liman.
Oh, that's right. Great.
Yes, Doug Liman doing his like Tarantino ripoff that everyone was doing. You know,
and another movie that had that same kind of very digital, very saturated color palette.
I love that movie. I owned that on VCD for a long time. Yeah, dude, I had a VCD collection of like 100 movies because they cost like
the movie.
$3.
That's the movie that got me really into drugs.
But you're not kidding. Timothy Oliphant in that movie, he plays a really good scary guy. I think that's honestly the movie that really kind of like launched him. He was good as a bad guy in Die Hard 4 as well.
Yeah, and we were talking about this last time. The Steven Soderbergh show, Full Circle. He's in that too. He's very good. Worth checking out.
I'm gonna have to check him out. So I love it. We're segueing away from the movies.
Yeah, this movie, like I think I wrote in the text, this movie is utterly forgettable. Like it just got washed away, and with all these others, it didn't really do anything new. You know, it's a zombie movie without zombies, I guess.
Yeah, it's a zombie movie.
But I liked it. But I liked it. I liked it.
My thing is that like I think it's because I don't watch horror movies. So I'm not feeling like this is just one of the crowd. I'm like, oh, this is quite fun. You know, I don't know. I don't really find horror movies fun. You know, I think I said to you guys, oh, this
matter. Are you too scared?
Yeah. Yes, it's literally why. It reminded me of playing The Last of Us.
You mentioned that. Yeah,
they get the pistol and they get the rifle, and there's scenes where he's like going through and he's getting medicine and he's water. It's all the same shit you have to do in the game, and then like the little bits that happen is you find a piece and then a set piece happens, you know, like suddenly there's a guy, suddenly you're trapped, suddenly there's a fire, you got to escape it. I'm like, dude, this is just like playing The Last of Us. This is great.
Yeah. I like that the disease that they all have, it's just borderline crazy. Like there's no uniformity, and some of them are incapable of talking or what. Some of them are still able to think and operate firearms and communicate.
Well,
there's really no rhyme or reason.
The duck hunters become just like, I guess you all become a bit crazy and you try to murder. So it's kind of it was an interesting premise though, because like these duck hunters, they go out, they come across this parachute and they find a dead pilot. So then they go out on the water and they discover a plane crash basically, and this big plane has crashed in this.
It's fully intact too.
Yeah,
fully intact.
Mostly. But it's hey, it was a forced water landing. Have you never seen the movie Sully? Jesus. But it's in the water that then bleeds into more water that bleeds into their water supply. And so they realize that the people closest to it are the ones that are getting it soonest. Then what I quite liked is that instead of it just being like just a straight up zombie movie, zombies are coming for us, the big bad is actually the government trying to cover up this thing. So it kind of reminded me of the movie Outbreak, where the army comes in and completely seals off a town, and then they're going to blow up the town with a really powerful bomb. That's exactly it, but it's played from the perspective of someone that doesn't know what's going on from the inside of the town, which I quite enjoyed.
Now, the virus in 28 Days Later, was that also government? Like because this is like basically a weaponized.
That was a rage virus that they were experimenting on monkeys, and then some like PETA people, some like animal rights activists come in, release the monkeys. The monkeys have got rage, they start biting, and then they go off and everything else. I've only seen that movie once. That was a good
Better
pull.
movie.
But yeah, Rage Virus. That scene with one of the very first scenes where the farm equipment has turned on.
Oh boy.
So
That
the
combine?
combine
Oof.
harvester's going, and the wife
Yeah.
goes out to see it, and she stands in front of it.
Right in front of it.
And
Total
she-
idiot. Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm amazed that you know, because I was like, well, this is gonna kill her. But it's like, would you ever stand in front of one of those things operating just mere inches in front of all of these stabby things going
never
right past
again.
your face and just waving like, hey, Steve, I'm here.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. But then that took a real turn when
Yeah.
the son's like, shh, dad's got a knife. So they hide inside the cupboard. The dad locks the cupboard and then burns the house down with them inside. I'm like, oh shit.
This happens like multiple times in the movies where people are drawn out to a barn, then the person in the barn hears a scream and has to run back to the house where something terrible is happening. It happens like 2 or 3 times, I think. In this.
It happens 2 or 3 times in this movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that they're always like, stay here. I'm going to go
I'll
and investigate.
investigate.
Don't stay there. Come with me. Stick together.
Yeah, but that, I mean, that scene that you're talking about in the beginning was pretty. I mean, yeah, you expect something. This is not a super violent movie. I mean, it's pretty violent, but I guess in today's standards, it's kind of tame, right? But
It's so weird that we can say that, but you're right. I mean, there are scenes where you see lots and lots of dead people and they've been killed, but it's not overtly like, there's not.
And it's all like a lot of good
like,
practical work in this.
You see like the guy with the fork, like the gardening fork, it comes through the bottom of the bed.
Yeah.
It's leaving it a lot to your imagination.
Hitchcock would be proud. But like she goes famously on record, I love Alfred Hitchcock, I love the Crazies. Mark my words. But they go, he goes back to the house and it's just this terrifying thing where it's the wife and son are fearful, like, and they to prerequisite that scene, it's them in the doctor's office with Rona. Is it Rona Mitra? Is that her name?
No, close though. I know.
Rhoda Mitchell.
Yeah, Rhoda Mitchell.
Where she's in what do you call it? She's looking over the husband and he's like, yeah, everything's fine. She just worries too much. And something is like,
he's in a bit of a weird catatonic state, and she's like, yeah, on Monday we want to send him for tests.
Yeah, you've got the crazies.
Yeah.
But then he proceeds to burn his fucking house down with his family locked in a closet. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And that was the cool shot, is that when they turn up, Timothy Oliphant and his missus turn up, that house is burning like crazy in the background of that scene. That is a barely controlled fire.
Yeah.
That was also
the fire department's like, we got it under control.
Well, the thing is, they don't. And I'm like, wow, he set fire to that house, right? Then the cop got a call, the sheriff got a call, him and his wife got ready, drove across town in Iowa, which is not quick, to this burning house that, made of wood, is still 40 minutes later burning like it's made of I don't know what. It's like
made of fire.
Because the cop the fire brigade has turned up and they're like, we got it under control. I'm like, dude, it's been 45 minutes and it's burning even more than it was. Are you spraying gasoline on this thing? What's going on with this house, man?
I did appreciate that in this movie at that time. They still leaned pretty heavily on a lot of practical stuff.
Very.
Though there are like some CGI shots that haven't aged quite as well, but it's still enjoyable. It's like all these people are in full makeup. I'm sure they sat in chairs for God knows how long for this horrible movie.
No, I was thinking very similar. I was like, okay, there's some actual production. And I was looking, considering the budget, it's 20 million. There was a lot of helicopters in the air, a lot of real helicopters. There were helicopter shots. There was that whole setup at the high school that looked great with the tents and the army guys and all of these buses and extras. So yeah, 100% Ryan. I agree, is that I was like, there were so many choices they made in this movie from a practical standpoint that I think show that we always agree. I mean, it's almost never better with CGI.
No. It felt somehow both big and small in scale.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. Is this movie was a moderate success. I mean, it's a $20 million movie that made nearly $60 million. So it does exactly what it says on the tin as far as what movie companies want from a horror movie. Yeah. It succeeded, but like it was a good-looking movie, and it had sort of interesting little twists. Like none of them like crazy. The scene that I did enjoy is that, I mean, they're constantly making the mistakes of walking on roads or driving on roads. That's where everyone's going to be, man. But when they're driving in and that Cobra attack helicopter comes over and it's like, uh-oh. And they drive into the car wash to hide. And then it becomes this whole other scene where they're being attacked by the people in the car wash. They're trapped in the car wash. They lose a weapon. Then it looks like they've got away. then Danielle Panabaker gets just last second.
Gets noosed.
Yeah,
God.
She just gets hung. That was such a surprise, though. And it's like, oh, she's dead.
Immediately. Like,
and then as their car is drifted out of the thing, which is quite funny, I noticed it in the background, oh, and they've left it in drive. They're going to have to go get the car. As they turn and look at it, suddenly a Hellfire missile comes down, it blows up.
Took care of that problem.
That was legitimately, I did really enjoy that moment. That was a fun.
I guess we're walking.
Yeah.
And then, but it becomes unclear, like, so it's the water supply that affects them, but there's beyond that, I don't know if they're able to it's not like a zombie thing where if you're scratched or bitten you get infected more. I don't know.
It didn't seem to be, because I got really worried when Timothy Oliphant stabbed the lady with the knife in his hand, and
that was actually my favorite scene.
That was cool. But I would have pulled the knife out, maybe clean the knife before removing it, instead of pulling her blood through my hand while it's still attached to it. Then I'm like,
I thought he was gonna like have the knife in his hand and pull it out.
I was worried. I was really worried he was going to do that. I was like, please don't do that. Please don't do that. I'm glad that they didn't do that one. That was a cool scene as well. But like, there's a lot of like, they almost die, get saved last second in this movie. Lots of last second, about to be stabbed, person gets shot. About to be stabbed, person gets shot. About to be shot, person gets shot. But we did get a little bit of explanation for the Crazies, which is when they stop that guy, and he basically says there's a 48-hour incubation period. Either, and if you don't get it in those 48 hours, you don't get it, kind of thing. But it's bad enough that they're still going to secretly nuclear bomb this entire town.
Right.
Yeah. A town of only, I think it says at the beginning, like 1,200 people or something.
Yeah, you know what I was expecting is because something's up, because we keep getting this satellite shot.
The drone shots. Yeah.
So that the government is involved in some way, and it identifies the town. And because we've just seen that guy get shot, I wanted, when it said population, I wanted to go down one. I thought that's what it was going to do.
If you're keeping score at home, you just wanted a tally on the screen at all times.
Yeah, I thought that would have been great.
That would have been hilarious. Just that tally keeps going down throughout the movie. Like that would have been. That would have been.
Feel like
James Gunn would have put that in the movie. And even right.
I feel like it's funny you say that. This movie would have been better if it almost didn't take itself too seriously. Like if there was a little more of a humor side to it, maybe.
It could have been moments of humor. I mean, like I said, the one thing I referenced was the one comedy beat was their car getting blown up by a Hellfire missile. Just all of a sudden, boom, that happens. I go, that's pretty funny.
that made me laugh too, because that's the total movie logic of a missile like hitting a car. They're only like 5-10 feet away from the car, and it just blows up the car, and they're just standing there. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's a missile. Like everything, like you would have been blown back like 100 feet.
No concussive blast.
Yeah. I love movie blasts like that.
You're just waiting for Timothy Oliphant to turn to the camera and say, Mondays, am I right?
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Shit just got real.
This is crazy. We're going to need a bigger boat. No, wait. But so the movie kind of just plays out like, and it brings the Iowa into it a bit, which is just the wide open expanses of, all right, we have to walk 5 miles. We have to cut across this farm. Well, there's lots of farms. There's lots of barns. There's lots of those sort of. It's dark. There's not a lot of light. There's
a baseball diamond. Just saying.
It has a baseball diamond. It does. I mean, it kind of plays off. That you get the juxtaposition of when they're outside, you can see everything, and it's like, man, they've got so far to go. But whenever they get to a building, suddenly it's all very claustrophobic. Yeah. And it's like, who's around the corner? Who's the next person? Yeah. There's always like suddenly a reflection in the background or a silhouette or movement of some kind. It's all those things that just keep you on edge. They keep putting you on edge, combined with the fact that the characters keep saying, let's split up. That was driving me crazy. When it's just the two of them by the end and it's like, let's split up. You stay out here in this place where everyone's been murdered. I'm going to go inside the big murder hole. See what I can find. I'm like, oh, come on, guys.
The movie, much like Dewey Cox has ruined biopics for me, music biopics for me, Cabin in the Woods has ruined any semblance of horror.
Yeah.
Because now it's just, Ollie, have you at least seen Cabin in the Woods?
Yes, that's one of the few, like my missus and I watched that, and
that's great.
We thoroughly enjoyed it. We were making so much noise watching that movie that my father-in-law came from the main room. We were in this back room watching. He goes, "What are you watching?" Because we're like, "Oh my god!" Like all this stuff
great.
kept happening.
Well, they pump
So
the pheromones in. He's like, "Wait, this isn't right. We need to split up." It's just
it's
it
brilliant, and it's like how
that classic
like
trope.
the blonde hair dye also had a chemical in that made them dumber. You know, it's just if
and horny.
If you're listening to this and like me, you're not even into horror movies. If you want to watch one movie that means you never have to watch any other horror movie ever again, but you're also going to have a really good time, is watch Cabin in the Woods. That's Drew Goddard, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it stars Chris Hemsworth before he blows up. Spoiler alert.
Literally and figuratively.
But that movie, Cabin in the Woods, we have to figure out where that's set actually, because I was looking at that the other day, because I would love to get into talking about that movie.
Oh man,
maybe we'll do a special Halloween episode.
Oh, I know. I've been thinking about maybe doing something like that but you're so right, Ryan, is that it manages to explain every single horror movie, every single one. It explains and gives a reason for this is the why of every horror movie ever made and why they happen the way they do. Like, by the end, you're just like, did they just what? Wow, what did I just see? And you're just giving it this random applause.
Yeah, and it opens with maybe the most incredible title sequence and ends with the most incredible title song. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
it
that
definitely
opening.
What were we talking about? The Creed.
I was gonna say real quick, it definitely, because I've co-written a horror movie, and so for those of us who make horror movies nowadays, definitely makes us think like, all right, we got to do something different now. We got to really think about this, because Cabin in the Woods kind of ruined it for everybody. So we got to try a little bit harder.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So. Yeah, I kind of like, so the movie plays out much like you would expect, that they're slowly getting picked off. One of the guys is infected, but he does that whole sort of sacrifice. I like that character. He was actually a very capable character. And I do like that you pointed out, I've saved your life 3 times in this movie already. Yeah. Just FYI.
And now you're absolutely fucked. Like,
cut me some goddamn slack. And I like that they were making relatively like smart decisions, apart from the splitting up thing, that they were like making logical decisions that I'm like, all right, this guy is saying what I would have said. Like this, like, okay. They've got a good plan. Like I said, my problem was they were walking on roads. You're going to have people on
the whole
road.
time you're wondering, are they, like, is each one of them, like, who's getting crazy? Like, because they each do certain things that you're like, oh, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, are they infected kind of thing? And it's like, I was honestly expecting, I mean, you do get a last twist. But I quite like the way it sort of went down. I was definitely rooting for them as the couple. I mean, it turns out she's pregnant as well, so they've added that extra sort of element in, because the way that you can tell if someone's infected is if they've got a raised temperature. But if you're pregnant, you will also run a bit of a fever too. So that's like why she's pulled in with the infected, even though she's not. Though it doesn't explain why Danielle Panabaker was there. Was she infected or not? She doesn't seem to be infected. I like that we get her boyfriend for like 5 whole minutes, and then he runs out and gets shot and then burned alive.
Oh my god, they blowtorch them so fast.
They did not mess around. I'm like, oh shit, maybe don't go outside, because. But then I kind of like that little bit that we get with the soldier, that they corner a soldier, realize they can't kill him because it'll give them away, but the soldier gives us a little bit of exposition position that was like, I didn't even know what state we were in until we saw the license plates.
Until I listened to this podcast.
Yeah.
That was weird. I don't know how they predicted that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Unexplainable.
But yeah, I mean, it's just the it's almost like just the blasé actions of the government. When you do get that government guy before he gets blown away really quickly, when he explains, what do you want? A global pandemic? Calling that one 10 years before. But also just that it's the soldiers who were just blindly following orders, who were just going out and murdering.
It's very video gamey, like you said, the last of us. Like, you can kind of
felt kind of like half,
because they're all masked. You don't see any of their faces. It's just
we only see that one soldier's face.
Yeah.
And he looked like Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville for a second. I was like,
that's what I thought it was. Yeah,
right.
Excellent.
He had a very familiar look to him.
But yeah, so towards the very, very end, they have a sort of a final showdown with those 3 duck hunters, which is like, just constant beat fest and blood and everything. And it was fun. It was fun. But they steal that truck, and then they found this military radio that's giving this countdown, like what's going to happen at 0. And like, I don't know, let's drive faster. And then it kind of like it gets to zero, and it was very Oppenheimer. That it was quiet, it was silence, and then
I noticed that too. But even before that, there's a bit where Timothy OnlyFans, he's in the back trying to fight these guys, but you have Rada Mitchell's character slowly open a bottle of water, drink it, and then pour it into a glass, and you're like, which they never, I don't think, ever touch back upon, but you're just like, oh my God, is it in the bottled water?
Well,
now?
no, it's because in that shot, when she walks, there's a guy standing in the darkness in the background. Oh. So when she goes, not there. When she's getting the water, he is there. When she sits back down and it pans back, he's gone again. So, like, I think you were obsessing about the water without noticing the murderer.
That's fair. Yeah, that's why, because they linger on like the shot of the glass, and they really make you think like, oh no, is it in bottled water too? Because you would think like, obviously it's the drinking water, but that's why she's drinking bottled water. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was just one of those tricks of like trying to use camera angles and reflections.
I think by then I was already exhausted from this movie that I didn't want another 30 minutes of it. That I was like, yes, drink the water and go crazy.
I would.
And they were gonna pull like a Dawn of the Dead where the baby comes out and it's crazy.
Oh my God. I really have to go back and watch Dawn of the Dead actually, because I remember that getting bonkers.
Oh, God.
And being actually quite fun. I forgot that James Gunn wrote that one actually.
Yeah.
And so the end of the movie, there's a huge bomb. They basically blow up this entire town.
But they outrun it, to be clear.
Did you stay through the credits for the extra bit?
Yeah.
Like the news part. Okay.
Yeah.
But then
I didn't. Because Amazon did that thing where
the
movie's not even over, and then it's like, hey, check out all these movies. And I'm like, I want to finish watching the one I'm currently watching, Amazon. I know that's crazy.
You can go into your settings. You can change that. At least I've done that on my Netflix.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can. Netflix is one of the settings of like, no, I want to watch the credits. So don't ask me if I want to watch something else, and don't automatically skip. You know, because there are some movies or TV shows that they've specifically picked this song to help you come down, you know, off this like intense moment. And they put all this really specific thought into it, and they go, "What's this?"
It's the song. It's the song from Sleeping with the Enemy.
What else? 90 Day Fiance? It's like, no.
I want to watch the Crazies
sex
too.
Song for sure.
Now, Will, you almost there's an original of this, George Romero. Like, is it the same? Basically the same premise that the water, the government, that kind of deal?
My understanding is, it's a similar premise, although it doesn't take place in Iowa, which is why I didn't pick it.
It does not. You were going to go with that one, weren't you? And then you're like, oh, yeah. Affected by a military biological weapon, filmed in Pennsylvania.
So they were back in the 2000s. They were remaking all these kind of schlocky, like low budget horror films, but we never got a proper remake of them.
What? Yeah. That's a crime. Ridiculous.
Ridley Scott, if you're listening,
we need more giant ant movies. The
closest we got is Eight-Legged Freaks with David Arquette, right?
That's right.
Which is still great, but we need them.
But I missed that. We got bats, we got giant mosquitoes, we got giant ants.
But there is the final twist in the movie is they're walking towards Cedar Falls or Cedar Rapids, some other Cedar. Cedar Rapids, I think. So I was like, wow, there's lots of things named after Cedar in Iowa, because that's 2 movies in a row. But then as they're walking towards the city, suddenly it goes back up to that satellite shot we got at the beginning. It goes population 100,000. It goes initiate containment protocol. And so it's setting up the idea of a sequel in a way, or it's just setting up like classic horror movie. Yeah. They're not out of it. I mean, because doesn't Dawn of the Dead end the same way, that they're just trying to get to that island?
Probably.
And as the boat
they get to the island, and then
you realize that there's
zombies
infected on the island. So I'm like, oh, well, they're screwed. You know what I mean? Which is that classic horror movie thing of like,
oh shit, here we go again.
Yeah. It's honestly my least favorite trope in horror movies, is like where they're like, oh, we got to end on this, and I'm like, no, you don't. Sometimes people can survive bad things, and that it's fine. You know, I don't know. It drives me crazy.
Every movie can end like Cabin in the Woods can, which is just like light a joint. And that's just the way it is. Anything else you want to talk about from the Crazies? Like I said, for me, I found it an enjoyable watch. For someone that doesn't watch horror movies, I found it quite inoffensive. I kind of found it quite fun. I like the premise.
It's pretty neutered. Like it's you know, doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything too crazy.
It's another one of those does exactly what it says on the tin movies. As we've said, you know, it's the Ron Sealed quick drying wood stain of movies, which is a really deep British reference to a television commercial from the 80s and 90s that I've shown Ryan, which is why he understands the.
I use that in my day-to-day life. I use that in client pitches. It's great.
It's a very good line. So all right, it's I almost feel Well, I did honestly feel like it's that much like Doc Hollywood, that I may have stacked the deck with Field of Dreams, because
Yeah.
it is a defining Iowa movie that is a real place in Iowa, that was shot in Iowa, that still exists in Iowa, and has now been ruined by corporate America in Iowa. But
And subsequently ruined by me.
yes, just completely destroyed by Ryan Sandler. But I kind of like what I was saying is during the Crazies for being shot in Georgia apparently doesn't look anything like what I would have pictured. Georgia. It looks like Iowa. They've got cornfields and wide open spaces, and so it's got that small town feel. I also like the way the movie starts. Everything's on fire, and then it goes 2 days earlier. And I was like, I like it when they do that in movies.
Kind of like there's a time limit on it too. Like,
and then also sleeping with the enemy. That kind of like I said when we were talking about it, is it does a different kind of Iowa, one that we're like, no, surely that doesn't exist, but that there are just towns and people, and there are universities. So they all touch on that small town. Every single one of these movies, I think, like you said, Ryan, at the very beginning, they've all got that small town feel. Yeah. So is there a debate on this one? Is there a? I kind of wish Children of the Corn had been here, because I think it would have been a great one to go. And it's Nebraska. All right, fine, it's Nebraska.
I mean, for me, it's Field of Dreams specifically because, much like Close Encounters, all of this hinges on this one place in Iowa. Like the Crazies and Sleeping with the Enemy, I feel like the writers were just throwing darts at a board and be like, okay, I guess Iowa's the place. Sure. I don't know.
I just kind of like, it's kind of going back to it though. The idea that Sleeping with the Enemy is, I want to go to Iowa because it's small town. It's safe. It's just small town safe. And then like Crazies is turned on its head because it's a small, safe town, where suddenly the infection's coming, and it's like it's turned on its head. It's like that scene where they get back to their house and suddenly Radha Mitchell starts doing the laundry. You remember that bit? She gets back.
She starts pulling
the laundry down, and then she's just yeah. But like but what she's doing is she's mourning the loss of that. She's like, this was the house, this was the life we chose, this is where we're going to raise our kids. She goes up into the
nursery,
the nursery, and she's like rubbing her belly and goes, this is where you were going to grow up. So it's like the underlying theme of all of these movies is that small town Iowa is a really nice place to live, especially if you're white.
And also water is terrible, drink soda.
That's always been my life motto. I mean, my only like weak defense of the Crazies is, in the other movies they leave Iowa for a little bit. Crazies is 100% in Iowa. That's all I got. That's fair.
It's not a bad play though, Will. It's not a bad play, because because you are right, because in Field of Dreams he does go he bounces all over because he has to go and pick up Terrence Mann,
and through time too.
Yes, he goes through wormholes as well. And Sleeping with the Enemy starts in Cape Cod and then takes place in Iowa, with a little day trip, like you're saying, to Minneapolis. So
it's all over the map.
So the Crazies is the only movie 100% shot in it. So not shot, set in Iowa. Okay, well played, Will. I'm going with this one. I'm like
that's all I got.
Unfortunately, it was also 100% shot in Georgia. It does say additional filming in Iowa, which I'm almost certain are those establishing shots of the sheriff's car driving in big sort of and there's farm equipment. There's about 4 or 5 of them right at the beginning of the movie, and I have to bet that they took a police cruiser to Iowa and shot those 5 scenes while all you're hearing is like radio chatter. That's
fair.
That's pretty much it.
I mean, Sleeping with the Enemy definitely felt the least like up against these other 2 movies, so I can eliminate that one,
because Sleeping with the Enemy also was shot in North and South Carolina.
Right.
So it really was Doc Hollywood. And I honestly, if it turns out it was the same town, I wouldn't be.
Which it's crazy because, Will, your original pick, Children of the Corn, was, though it's set in Nebraska, was filmed entirely in Iowa.
Yeah. Right. And it's obviously the cornfields and stuff. Like, to me, I'm like, the fact, I guess Nebraska also has cornfield. I don't know. Everything in I guess that area has cornfields. I don't know. I was really disappointed.
What would Beth have picked?
I mean, there were other movies that we were kind of circling. I'm one that I almost picked because I've never seen it. Bridges of Madison County.
Yeah.
Oh.
There was another
Yeah.
movie that Ryan. It's literally called Iowa.
But then I watched the trailer. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, that's what I had knowledge of beforehand. I'm like, I'm not picking that one.
So and then another one was Butter, which and then kind of like there are some of these old ones. I was surprised, Will, that you didn't pull out some of these. Like there's State Fair, from the olden times, the Fighting Sullivan. So the thing is, I think when we return to Iowa, I think we're going to have to do some pretty deep cuts. I think we're going to have to pick some really deep cuts.
Yeah.
I didn't pick the Fighting Sullivans because I can't do that back to back with Field of Dreams, because God, does that movie tear your heart out?
Really?
At the end. Oh my God. It's one of the biggest. I can't even describe the end scene without crying.
You're tearing up right now talking about it.
Okay, well, Will's going to wreck us.
That would be next time, because it would have just been, this would have been 3 hours of us crying.
I can't wait for Ryan to destroy the Fighting Sullivans for you with his riot.
Oh, the Germans already did that, so don't worry.
So, I mean, I guess this is one of those times, because it's even his Children of the Corn, it's even there on the list, but it's not true.
Yeah.
So I guess the thing is that, I mean, it's almost impossible to dethrone Field of Dreams. We're going to have to find something incredible, because we're all going to agree, right? It is Field of Dreams, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Even the dog's agreeing. You can hear the dog in the background. Field of Dreams.
We got it. Yeah.
Barking with the enemy.
Honestly, yeah, this dog's going to become one of our characters on the podcast. I love this. So we're making the official movie, probably to nobody's surprise in this particular case, for Iowa is Field of Dreams, at least until somebody can send us or suggest to us, or we can find a better movie that can take it down. Because I really would like to take down Field of Dreams, only just because I want Ryan to have to watch it again.
Go fuck yourself. I'd rather watch Ghost Dad with Ghost Dad with
oh no.
Oh my God, I saw that movie as a kid.
Listen, I can separate the art from the artist, all right?
Oh my God,
there has to be art there though.
Just like, oh my God. So yeah, we also did our kind of also around. So like I said, I think next time around, I think I'm probably going to bring some big gun.
I love episodes like this where it's not that it was close, but it shouldn't be difficult to usurp the winner, and hopefully our audience can chime in and provide us with some direction of what they think we should pick for their state.
Yeah, 100%. I want to. There's less known movies. So the only thing left is where we're going next week, and I can't wait actually, because one, this state has got a lot of bangers that you can choose from. I mean, a lot of bangers from all kinds. You can go highbrow, you can go lowbrow, or you can go my direction, which is like kind of a shit movie that I really like, and I want to make you guys watch it. And because I really kind of like this movie. So we're gonna go to the state of Louisiana, guys.
Oh yeah.
So anything New Orleansian.
Hell yeah.
It could be like Interview with the Vampire. It could be Hard Target. It can be, you can go John Woo. You can do anything.
Oh
yeah. Will's looking excited already.
God.
Hard Target's
can I pick four movies for this one?
Can you pick four? We'll do a special episode, Will's episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got one in the chamber ready to go, which is a movie I reluctantly watched on a plane, and then I saw who wrote it and I went, what? And then I saw the cast and I was like, are you kidding me? And then I watched it and I go, I quite enjoyed this movie. So we're gonna watch it. It's gonna be fun.
Hell yeah.
So to everybody else at home, don't forget, if you're listening to this podcast, just subscribe. Can you rate us? That really helps. If you can just go on, it'll take 2 seconds. You're holding your phone in your hand right now. You're looking at it, listening to my voice. If you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, do that. Click the little notifications bell. Drop comments underneath. I'm trying to find these comments. I try to reply. People reaching out on our Reddit, United States of a Movie on Reddit as well. We've had people reaching out with their comments and suggestions, which is great. We are reading them. We like to interact with you. You can find me online, Ollie_Pettigrew, or That Englishman in Texas. You can find Will as entitled Willennial, and you can find Ryan and his interesting t-shirt designs, both of which Will and I are wearing right now, are available on his Threadless store. You can find that as Rhino Digital, RYNO Digital. That being said as well, I mean, we've got our Facebook page, so find us, drop us your suggestions for the states that are coming. Tell us what you thought about our choices or whether you disagree with them. We want to hear about it as well. And join us next week as we go to Louisiana and we find out which movie Will has picked, because he looks positively giddy. The only thing left to say is, Ryan, Will, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Yeah. I look forward to next time.
Great to be here. Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to it. And now I'm going to go and watch Field of Dreams again, and through the Ryan lens. If you haven't watched Field of Dreams for a while, go watch it through the Ryan lens, and you're going to realize
the only thing that could have made that movie better is if the Ghostbusters come out of the end and just fucking blast everybody.
Actually, I was looking.
Tell me I'm wrong.
I actually was looking at where that Ghostbusters sequel was set. For the potential of using that on the show as well, but that would have been an amazing ending. It's like, it's time to bust some ghosts.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that next time. The only thing left to say for all of you listening, or if you're watching at home, thanks for joining us on this episode of the United States of a Movie Podcast.